Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Economic Matters. Today is Tuesday, February 24th. Welcome to our 1 p.m. bill hearings. For those of you who may be new to the committee, I just want to emphasize to those who are testifying, except for the legislators, the bill sponsors that will be presenting, every witness that comes up for oral testimony will have 2 minutes. If you are caught by the clock, please summarize and don't go through your pages of script. We actually encourage that you just speak from the heart. You usually get your point across better that way, quite honestly. And we do ask for decorum in the committee room, the audience towards the committee members and us towards you. Also, I will emphasize that we have a short docket. It looks like short, but every time we see the short list, it ends up going on for hours and hours for whatever reason. We do have 50+ oral testimony today, so we would ask that if you come after the bill sponsor and those testifying before, you can also say ditto or me too. And I will emphasize that if you provided written testimony, members do have that access on their laptops and will be reviewed before voting sessions. So with that said, we have 5 bills on the docket, and we'll start with Delegate Ampry with House Bill 985.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Always good to be amongst you all. I think it's my first bill in this committee this year. You'll see a lot of me next week. For the record, Delegate Marlon Ampry here in support of House Bill 985. Video streaming services, loudness of commercial advertisements. House Bill 985 is a consumer protection measure designed to regulate the volume of commercial advertisements delivered through video streaming services. The bill prohibits streaming platforms from transmitting advertisements at a louder audio level than the programming content they accompany. I know we all deal with this when we're watching something on Netflix or YouTube or any other type of streaming service. The advertisements that come across are significantly louder than the actual programming that you're watching, sometimes waking you up out of that good nap that you are having, or or just disturbing if you have headphones in. If you have a young child who's watched something, it can be very disturbing. So the goal of this bill is to limit the volume to the volume that you set when you're watching the actual programming. The legislation seeks to address a growing gap in consumer protections as media consumption increasingly shifts from traditional television to digital streaming platforms. While federal law through the Commercial Advertisement Loudness Mitigation CALM Act already regulates advertisement volume on broadcast and cable television, similar protections have not been consistently applied to online streaming services. HB 985 extends these consumer safeguards into the digital media environment by requiring streaming services providers to maintain consistent audio levels between advertisements and program content. The bill aims to reduce disruptions, improve viewer comfort, and ensure fair and consistent standards across evolving entertainment technologies. Overall, the measure reflects Maryland's effort to modernize consumer protection laws in response to changing media consumption patterns while promoting transparency and reasonable business practices. HB 985 does not restrict advertising content or limit revenue opportunities for streaming services. The bill does not impose significant new technological requirements, as most platforms already have the capability to adjust and regulate their audio levels. The legislation simply requires adherence to reasonable and widely accepted industry audio standards. And I'm going to be very brief. With that said, I ask for a favorable report on House Bill 985, and I have a couple. Oh, one thing I wanted to add: there are some amendments that are being worked on we will consider friendly amendments that will make some minor tweaks to the bill for clarification purposes that you'll hear about later. With that said, I ask for a favorable report on House Bill 985. Turn over to our panel.
Great. Thank you, Delegate. And Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Jennifer Bevan-Dangle. I'm the Deputy Director of Economic Action Maryland Fund. We are here in support of this legislation. We see it as an important way to close what's essentially a loophole in the federal law. The sponsor mentioned the CALM Act. That was passed very shortly before streaming became the reigning champion of how people consume media. And so obviously, just through a sort of fluke in timing, a huge sector of how we do consume media and listen to advertisements was left out of that bill, we believe, just by accident and a sort of twist of fate. We do see this as a consumer protection issue. Consumers have the right to sort of quiet enjoyment, and there's 2 benefits to having these ads be excessively loud. One, obviously, is to give preferential treatment to the advertisers, who then, jolt you into paying attention. And the other benefit is that some of these streaming services can use excessively loud advertising to drive customers to subscribe and pay for subscriptions that they shouldn't have to pay for, simply because they're trying to avoid that, hit with that sudden burst of noise. And I guess I am here as a mom. I know the sponsor mentioned young kids. Well, as a mother of teens, I know when those ads come on because they always have earbuds in, and you just see those kids jerk up from whatever they were doing when the ads hit. So I can't imagine, I'm not a public health expert, but I can't imagine what it's doing to, kids hearing across the state. So we do urge a favorable report, and we are open to the sponsor amendments.
Thank you. Before I take any questions, I will just say for the audience, we're missing some members. That's because they're presenting bills in other committees, so everyone is present, just not in here at the moment. With that said, I have a quick question. So Delegate Ampry, you mentioned at the end of your testimony that there are several amendments. Are those amendments from the proponents or from the opposition that you're considering?
I wouldn't say it's opposition. I think it's just members, people from in the industry who want to make sure it's adding some clarifying language. It's not anything. It's not anybody who's against the bill. You'll hear from a friendly face you see often who's going to mention that momentarily.
Okay, I said opposition because I was looking at the committee testimony and it didn't say FWA, it said unfavorable, so that's why I said opposition.
Okay, all right. Well,
Okay. I don't see any further questions, so thank you very much for your panel. We do have a virtual for favorable, Ronza Othman. You're muted, Ronza.
Okay,
Go
can you hear
ahead.
me now? Are you able to hear me now?
Can you speak louder?
Are you able to hear me now?
Can you speak louder?
I can try. Are you able to hear me now?
We can, but it's difficult.
Okay. Let me try. Is this any better?
Maybe if you put the microphone closer to your mouth?
Yes.
That's much better.
Okay. I apologize for that. I apologize for I probably look scrunched in the camera. So I am blind, so I'm reading. Are you ready to begin?
Yes, please begin.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for your forbearance. Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, and members of the committee, my name is Ronza Othman, and I am the president of the National Federation of the Blind of Maryland. NFB of Maryland is the state's oldest and largest organization of and for blind, low vision, and deaf blind individuals. We are extremely difficult to my delegate, for sponsoring this bill. I want to explain how most blind people access streaming services. We use technology that verbally reads the texts and links that you see visually on the screen and via synthesized speech. We navigate with keyboard commands, the right, left, up, down, the arrows on the remote control, because we typically can't see if there's a mouse pointer and move it. We set our volumes and settings so that we can engage with the page content, and we listen to the programming and also assistive technology, text-to-speech, to navigate and still view the program that's being streamed. So we can hear our assistive technology simultaneously. We can hear it say pause, rewind, and so on as we navigate the elements. But when the ads are louder than the programming, we're prevented from being able to interact with our assistive technology. Essentially, we are a captive audience. We can't, for example, click the skip button like others do, because the ads are so loud, we can't hear our assistive technology telling us if they're there. So the increased volume of the ads overtakes the technology we use to access the streaming services altogether. Those of us who are deafblind have to change our technology volume, and we often miss the beginning of the program while we try to adjust it back after the commercials are finished. This is more than annoying, it's discriminatory. For the reasons I shared here and in my written testimony, the National Federation of the Blind of Maryland urges a favor on this bill. Thank you so much, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much for your testimony. I do not see any questions. Thank you kindly. We'll now move on to the favorable with amendment. We have Grayson Wiggins.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Grayson Wiggins here on behalf of the Maryland Chamber of Commerce. I want to thank the bill sponsor for meeting with me before the hearing. As he mentioned, we do have just a couple of amendments to clarify the bill and really, I think, just make some small changes that would reflect similar laws that have passed in California and Virginia. And so we'll make sure the committee council gets that. We're working with the Senate committee council right now on finalizing some of that language, and we'll send it over as soon as we have it to your team. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Seeing no questions, thank you very much. That concludes the bill hearing on House Bill 985. We'll now move on to House Bill 798. Delegate Wallach, if you have a panel with you, you can bring them up with you.
Good afternoon, Chair Valderrama, Vice Chair Charkoudian, and esteemed members of the Economic Matters Committee. For the record, I'm Delegate Sarah Wallach, here to present House Bill 798, the Small Business Increased Access to Capital Act. Our state economy is struggling. Maryland lost 25,000 jobs due to changes at the federal level. Our real GDP grew just 1.4% in the second quarter of 2025, well below the national rate of 3.8%. New business applications fell 6% in 2024, and small business survival rates dropped from 19% to 12%, one of the steepest declines in the region as neighboring states like Delaware and Virginia continue to outpace Maryland in business formation, survival, and job creation. As we look ahead to building a stronger economy, prioritizing small businesses is essential. One way we can do that is by making it easier for small businesses to access capital that will help them to both start and grow their businesses. This need, of course, was recognized by legislators before me who established the Small Minority and Woman-Owned Business Account, the Video Lottery Terminal Fund, also known as SMWOBA, for short, at the Department of Commerce in 2007. State law requires that 1.5% of proceeds from the VLTs at each lottery facility be paid into this account. This program provides investment capital and loans to small minority, veteran-owned and women-owned businesses in our state, of which 50% of that money must be allocated to jurisdictions surrounding a video lottery facility, and the remaining 50% can be allocated statewide. Commerce, however, does not have any direct loan programs. Does not make any direct loans through this program. They partner with various public and private fund managers, and they have about 9 of those currently participating. These fund managers make loans to clienteles with state funds and are able to retain earnings through interest and application fees. So hopefully that provides a little bit of background on the program. Since inception of the fund through fiscal year of 25, over 1,400 transactions have settled with approximately $150 million, projected to create about 6,000 new jobs and retain over 9,000 jobs. While this program, compared to other state lending and capital initiatives, has been successful, making capital accessible and stimulating economic development, we are starting to see an underutilization of these state funds. By the end of fiscal year 26, quarter 2, the 9 fund managers who are participating had about $17.9 million available in their state checking accounts that are not being deployed to small businesses. And an additional $40 million is sitting unencumbered within the department, as the department is working to attract more fund managers to come and participate in this program. While traditional banks use higher interest rates for higher risk clientele, SMWOBA fund managers typically offer at or below market rates. These loans are small, ranging from a few $1,000s to $500,000, and are routinely passed over by traditional lenders because they're deemed risky. The entrepreneurs who need these often require additional technical assistance and support to ensure that these investments succeed. The private sector alone cannot serve this market because these loans are either unprofitable or not profitable enough to justify the risk of the staff time and service required. This program exists to fill that gap, and without it, the capital does not reach the entrepreneurs who need them. So this bill says the Department of Commerce may allow the fund managers who are participating in the program to retain a management fee of between 1.5% and 3% of each loan made under the program. This recognizes also the important guardrails and caps, puts an annual cap that any fund manager can receive in any given year for managing this fund. Aside from attracting additional fund managers to disperse the monies that are available, this management fee will provide fund managers with the resources they need to market the program more broadly, increase the technical assistance that is needed by entrepreneurs, and possibly hire dedicated staff to make these fund loans available. I've worked with the Department of Commerce in the development of this bill, and they're here today in support. I'm also thrilled to have support from the Women's Caucus, the Black Caucus, the Latino Caucus, the new chair of the AAPI Caucus as well. I want to thank the committee for your consideration and urge a favorable report for this bill. Thank you.
Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, distinguished members of the Economic Matters Committee, I'm Stephen Primosh. I'm the Vice President of Financial Services for the Anne Arundel Economic Development Corporation, and I'm here in support of House Bill 798. We've been a fund manager under the VLT fund since 2013. We've made over 195 loans, over $24 million retaining and creating over 2,500 jobs, over $66 million of private investment as well. These loans have been essential financing for these new and expanding businesses, many considered creditworthy, not quite bankable. The Small Business Increased Access to Capital Act will further expand the distribution of critical capital to support business startups and help existing businesses grow in Maryland. By allowing the Department of Commerce to authorize the management fee within the Small Minority and Women-Owned Business account, the legislation provides much-needed resources for fund managers to help them market, hire staff to administer this program, and make it more effective and efficient. As a result, more Maryland business will be able to get started and grow to create jobs, tax base, and long-term economic impact on the state of Maryland. Thank you for your time today and the opportunity to testify on this bill.
What did you say your last name was again?
It's Primosh, P-R-I-M-O-S-C-H.
And you're with Anne Arundel?
Anne Arundel Economic Development, yes.
Okay, it says Steve Adams, so I was just wondering.
He was our marketing person that signed us up. So,
Oh, got it. Okay.
thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Andy Fish, and I'm the Senior Director of the Office of Finance Programs at the Maryland Department of Commerce. You heard how we have 9 fund managers acting to deploy the funds within the SWIM program, and we are very fortunate for the great job that each of them do. As we've heard, though, their resources in deploying funds are very challenged, and authorizing the fund managers to collect a management fee that is calculated as a percent of each loan is expected to have a very positive effect on small businesses in Maryland. The bill will incentivize existing fund managers to issue a larger volume of loans and is expected to motivate additional organizations to apply to become a fund manager. This means more small, minority, and women-owned businesses will receive financial support to start and grow their business. Commerce is very confident that by increasing the amount of funds dispersed to the eligible companies, the state will see an increase in economic activity, state revenue, and jobs created. The current compensation structure of fund managers through the SWIMA program is simply not sufficient given the high volume of transactions the fund managers currently see and the future loans we would like to see occur. HB 798 will create a compensation structure that will enable the fund managers to hire staff dedicated to the program and direct more time and resources to issuing these loans. With that, Commerce respectfully requests a favorable report on House Bill 798. I thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Evan Richards. I'm the head of government community relations for the Maryland Bankers Association. Here in strong support of House Bill 798, I'd like to thank Delegate Wallach for her leadership on this issue. And as we talk about supporting small women-owned and minority-owned businesses, the increased cost of lending becomes very problematic for some of these small businesses. So providing this additional support to help them administer and distribute these funds is crucially important for success, especially around the video lottery facilities. You have our written testimony. I think the previous witnesses did a pretty good job of outlining the importance of the administrative fee, but I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll just point out, not so much a question, or I can end it with, isn't that so? But maybe just comment for either the bill sponsor or the panelists. So in the fiscal note under the local fiscal effect, there is a sentence that says, as any such management fee must come from SMOWOBA, the total amount of funding available for making loans and awarding grants is reduced, which in turn reduces the amounts available for additional rounds of assistance. So I'm more looking for like commentary, because I know the whole point of this legislation is to provide.
Yes, so thank you for that question. There are about $40 million that are still sitting at Department of Commerce that are not even in the hands of fund managers to then push out to small businesses. They're just sitting there. There's another 17 million and change that are sitting in the accounts of existing fund managers. So that's 57 million that's not being deployed. The incentive here with this management fee is to get those monies out the door to our small businesses. Yes, that means that some of that 57 million will go towards fees, but it's the way to get this, it's sort of the cost of doing business, right? Because right now, no one's going to move on this out of the goodness of their heart. People need some incentive to do this work because it is costly. These loans are riskier. They are at a lower market rate. So the fund managers need to be sort of compensated to be doing that work. And the fee would come from SMOWOBA funds, but we are sitting on millions and millions of dollars of funds. So it's just a drop in the bucket in terms of what we're going to give to those fund managers to hopefully deploy these monies.
Thank you for that. I don't see any further questions, so shockingly. Thank you for your testimony, Delegate Wallach, and your panel. We'll have several favorables. We have Jennifer Lahat, Timothy Smoot, and Andrew Naylor.
Hi, my name is Andy Naylor. I'm the founder of a small tech startup, Datacraft Solutions in Anne Arundel County. We specialize in software and infrastructure products, and our main market is the federal government. So with these small tech startups, capital is key. You can't do anything with capital. You can't hire anyone. You can't recruit anyone. You can't hedge against major bank collapses. You can't watch out for new executive orders, and you can't cover payroll if the government's slow to pay. When I first started Datacraft, I went through and met with a lot of traditional financing institutions about securing a loan for our small business. And they either didn't understand our business model, our revenue stream, or our revenue schedule, or the terms at which they wanted to lend me a very paltry amount of money was just untenable. Where I met the AAEDC, the Anne Arundel County Economic Development Corporation, they told me about the Next Stage Loan, which is a subsidiary of the VAULT program, which is drawn from the VLT program. I met with Steve. He totally understood he understood small business in the area. He understood my small business, and he offered me excellent terms on our loan. I secured that loan, and I started a recruitment drive, which I increased my workforce by 50% and increased my revenue by almost 100%. So if you are looking to strengthen the small tech community in Anne Arundel County, Maryland area, the Next Stage Tech Fund is a great way to do that. I'm in favor of House Bill 798. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Naylor. I don't see any questions for you. I'm just going to say it one more time, Jennifer Lahat and Timothy Smoot. Okay, they're out. We'll now move, thank you, there are no questions for you.
Thank you.
We do have a favorable virtual, Dawn Medley.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, and distinguished members of the committee. For the record, my name is Dawn Medley, President and CEO of FSC First. FSC First is a nonprofit community development financial institution, or CDFI, and serves as an eligible fund manager for the Small Minority and Women-Owned Business Account, commonly known as the VLT loan program. We respectfully offer favorable testimony on House Bill 798. The bill provides an important technical clarification to the administrative structure of Maryland small business lending programs. Administering public loan capital requires professional underwriting, compliance oversight, servicing, and technical assistance. House Bill 798 allows a modest management fee, which is subject to department caps, in addition to interest income, aligning the program with standard fund management practices. This change does not increase costs to borrowers, in that the management fee is not passed on to small businesses, and no new general fund appropriation is required. Instead, the bill strengthens program sustainability, improves risk mitigation, and ensures these funds remain a stable revolving source for Maryland entrepreneurs. We appreciate Delegate Wallach's leadership and respectfully request a favorable report on House Bill 798. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Medley. I do not see any questions for you. Thank you very much for your testimony this afternoon. Seeing there are no other witnesses, that concludes the bill hearing on House Bill 798. I would say we'd move on to the next three bills, but none of the bill sponsors are here. So this is quite interesting. I guess we will take a little break until unless there's someone here to present on behalf of Delegate Woods, Delegate Chi, and which they are not. And just to be clear, Delegate Chi and Delegate Sharkudian, who are members of this committee, are presenting in another. So we'll just wait until Delegate Woods. They're placing a call now. Thank you for everyone's indulgence and patience. Thank you, everyone, members and all, for your indulgence and patience. I'd like to introduce my district mate, Delegate Woods. I think we know where this bill is going, considering her tardiness. Just kidding. Just kidding. She's not even listening. I'm just like,
No,
Oh, no.
I'm trying to find my glasses, because I'm not gonna be any good to you without them. Yeah, I must have. You need mine? What level are you? Negative something. Oh, no, that's not doing me any good.
Is that it down there? Or is that?
That's it. Found my glasses.
thank you, Delegate Woods. Here to present House Bill 77.
Good afternoon, and I am extremely pleased to be able to say Chair Valderrama, and to the wonderful members of the ECM, Vice Chair Charkoudian, and also to everyone else. For the record, my name is Delegate Jamila Woods. I'm here today to request a favorable report on House Bill 77, the Ticket Resale Consumer Protection and Transparency Act. Marylanders should be able to buy tickets to concerts, games, and live events without fear of being scammed, overcharged, or misled at checkout. But too often, consumers face deceptive listings, speculative tickets that are not actually owned by the seller, surprise fees that inflate the final price, and refund headaches when tickets are counterfeit, the event is canceled, or the seats are not what was promised. HB 77 is designed to restore fairness, transparency, and accountability in Maryland's secondary ticket market. HB 77 does four main things. First, it creates a registration system for high-volume ticket resellers. Any reseller who sells or offers to sell at least 50 tickets in a calendar year must register annually with the Consumer Protection Division in the Office of the Attorney General. The bill also prevents bad actors from evading oversight by counting duplicate listings across multiple platforms toward the threshold and treating entities under common ownership as single resellers. Registration requires basic identifying information, and the division will maintain a public list of registrants, including violations within the last 5 years, while protecting sensitive information like Social Security numbers from public discourse. Second, HB 77 strengthens reporting and record keeping so enforcement is real. Registrants must submit semi-annual reports showing how many tickets they sold, what they paid originally, and the final resale price. Secondary ticket exchanges must verify registration, maintain records of sales on their platforms, report unregistered and non-compliant resellers, and submit their own semi-annual reports to the division. The transparency helps the Attorney General identify patterns of abuse and target enforcement where it is needed the most. Third, HB 77 addresses pricing and fee practices that consumers experience as both unfair and predatory. The bill prohibits resellers from selling or offering to sell a ticket more than the original total price, including fees and taxes, plus 10%. It also caps the marketplace service fee charged by a secondary ticket exchange at 10% of the initial total price. These guardrails are aimed at curbing extreme price gouging and excessive fees that lock families out of events and undermine confidence in the market. Fourth, HB 77 establishes clear consumer protections at the point of sale. Listings and every step of the transaction must clearly disclose the total price, including itemized fees and taxes, and identify seat and information when applicable. Seat and section information when applicable, my apologies. The bill also requires refunds within 10 days when a ticket is counterfeit, the event is canceled, or the ticket does not match what was advertised. It prohibits the sale of speculative tickets entirely, so consumers are not paying for tickets the reseller does not actually possess or control. And it protects lawful transfer and resale by prohibiting unreasonable restrictions on ticket transferability while still allowing issuers to enforce legitimate venue rules and purchase quantity limits. To support these protections, the bill requires ticket issuers and secondary exchanges to take commercially and technologically feasible steps to prevent bots or software from bypassing purchase limits, and it makes clear that a violation of the subtitle is unfair, abusive, or deceptive trade practice under the Maryland Consumer Protection Act, meaning the Attorney General has strong tools to enforce it and hold violators accountable. House Bill 77 is about ensuring that Maryland consumers can participate in the live entertainment market with transparency, fair pricing, and meaningful protections against fraud and deception. And just for a point of personal knowledge, my daughter is one of those people who loves to go to concerts. And I see her sit with her friends waiting for ticket sales for some of her favorite concerts. And you know, at a certain time, these tickets become available. They're sitting there, they wait for that time, they push the button, and when they push the button, say the tickets are supposed to be available at 11, at 11:01, they're told all of the tickets are sold out. A ticket that she could have purchased for $50 has gone up as much as $1,200. A lot of these people who are charging these prices aren't even in the state of Maryland, so the state of Maryland is not benefiting. They create so many more restrictions, not just the fact that so many people are unable to enjoy these things, but there are some illegal aspects that take place with things like bots and so on and so forth. And so I'm going to stop there and just say, for these reasons, I respectfully urge the committee to issue a favorable report on House Bill 77. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Woods. I have a question from Delegate Queen.
Where's the?
Yeah, my alarm told me it was time to ask a question. Thank you.
Did it tell you to be gentle and?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
It did. It said, be nice to whoever comes up at that time of day. Be nice. Thank you, Delegate, for the bill. We've heard these sort of bills before, and so I was.
Now you take it over, y'all. AI is here.
AI just told me, yeah, it's true. We heard it before. I don't know. But the fiscal note says we haven't heard anything in the last 3 years, which I was just ready to go research. But my biggest question, though, is the Office of Attorney General, which you are asking to register people, because this is, I think, the first time we've heard that as a approach. But they've sent a letter of information basically saying they would need 3 more people to to do this, and that they discussed some of their concerns with you. What are your thoughts on what they're saying, or have you all kind of reached some kind of agreement on their concerns?
So thank you very much for the question. So we have actually thought about it, particularly a very important point was the individual who maybe sells 50 tickets within a calendar year, and we realize it's probably almost impossible to be able to identify those persons and register. So we are considering some amendments that would address the number of tickets in the time period that a person would address those. To be honest with you, we have not, I don't remember receiving an update on what hiring of additional people, and that would be specifically for the registration. Okay. I'm looking to see if I. Yeah, but the response to your question is that, yes, we would certainly consider some amendments that would be more feasible to making sure that we could better trace and track these ticket purchase and oversales.
All right, thank you.
My pleasure.
Delegate Adams?
Thank you, Chair. So I'm a season ticket holder for the Washington Commanders, and they've written a letter of opposition. So. I have 8 season tickets. The platform that I use to resell some of those tickets, because I like to go to games with others that I'm friends with, use SeatGeek as the platform to do that. Is this bill going to impose a restriction on SeatGeek such that I will not be able to resell my tickets the way that I'm used to?
Well, I don't know the way that you're used to reselling your tickets, so I can't specifically speak to that, but SeatGeek would be included in this bill, what this bill is identifying, if that answers your question.
So as a season ticket holder, I'm able to sell my tickets for market value, which means that the Washington Commanders play the Dallas Cowboys. That game's probably a little bit more valuable to the average fan than, say, just pick a game, right? And so the point being is that many people who buy season tickets do so with the principle that they have the flexibility to be able to sell these in a dynamic marketplace. I'm just saying, for my purposes, that dynamic marketplace is the Washington Commanders using SeatGeek to do that. And I believe, if I'm reading this bill, that it's imposing obligations on that platform that are going to hurt me as a season ticket holder.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, if you're saying that the market value of the ticket is a particular price, then that would not impact you because that is the market value of the ticket. If I'm understanding your question.
I'm saying that the team uses a platform that appears to be under the bill's jurisdiction. That's what I'm seeing here.
Do you mind if we have that discussion offline so that I can make sure that I'm absolutely?
As a season ticket holder, I think I speak for the vast majority of people that there is a good and market reason to be able to sell tickets.
And you're saying that's going to be significantly above what would normally be sold for the ticket? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, I mean, okay, so how about if we take this offline?
Yes.
I have real concerns with the bill. It is, I think most people that buy tickets, it's customary to be able to sell tickets. It helps them be season ticket holders. I'll leave it there.
I appreciate it and certainly would love to have that conversation offline.
I'm shocked that Delegate Adams suggested that.
Thank you, Delegate Adams.
Delegate Pippy.
Doug, good to see you. I just had a question just on the, I saw some opposition related to the, as they called it, price
Cap.
10%, right? So just to put things in context, you know, if you have a $20 ticket, although that doesn't seem very likely because tickets are very expensive, but you know, if you try to sell that ticket for $23, are we looking at a violation of the Consumer Protection Act, which, as you know, it's a very serious thing in Maryland. You know, it's a lot of teeth, as we call it. So, you know, is the goal of the bill really to prevent people from selling things they don't have, or is the goal to regulate the prices? Because, you know, sometimes, like in using the delegate to my left's point, sometimes tickets become more valuable, right? Or less valuable, depending on how the team's doing. If the team sucks, you know, as you get later on in the season, maybe no one goes. But if it turns into this like rare situation, you know, and the demand goes up, you know, do we want to be in the business of capping the value that has improved? You know, if it's a very good concert, you know, if the musician gets arrested and he's a horrible human being, maybe no one wants to go to the concert. But if the guy or gal just won a bunch of Grammys and everybody's like, this is amazing, you know, the value goes up. So could you address that piece? Is that what the purpose of this bill is, or is that something that you could take out and focus on the other stuff? What are your thoughts there?
So the overall purpose of this bill is to prevent those ticket scammers and persons who are literally taking advantage of the ticket sale prices that have been established. And to be honest with you, we've had conversations about the sports arenas and whether or not we even wanted to include them. But for the concerts, it impacts the persons who are performing. It impacts, needless to say, those who are going to those concerts. Our goal is to prevent that opportunity to purchase a ticket when that ticket becomes available at the price that has been established. That impacts both the performers, the venue, and the customers who are purchasing those tickets. The overall goal of this bill is to prevent those scammers and those people who are taking away from all of those sources. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, only in the sense of, I mean, I don't have to also take this offline to talk later, but I'm just trying to wrap my head around the value piece. You know, if people want to buy it and they're willing to pay more, does that take away from, because the tickets are still available, they're just more expensive. And then if nobody buys them, then maybe that person reduces it to an amount that people are willing. I mean, at some point, the way usually the market works is if things are too expensive, people just don't buy them, you know, and then the person's like, oh, I gotta lower this to get somebody to buy it. I know that's not the whole bill, but I just was really focused on that piece because that seems to be a point of contention for a lot of folks.
Again, I want to reiterate that the specific goal of this bill is preventing those people who are purchasing tickets with the immediate purpose of selling them for an astronomical price. Not, if I wasn't available and I want to switch up. I'm talking about people whose immediate purpose is to make a profit that does not take into consideration those aspects that I just mentioned, the venue, the performer, if you will,
Yeah.
and the customer.
You're just buying them in bulk. I guess.
Just buying them in bulk with the specific purpose of selling them for hundreds and sometimes thousands more dollars than what has been established.
Yeah, I got you. Okay, thank you for that.
Delegate Rose?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for this conversation and bill. So we had this bill before, and similar to my colleague, so I see that, so a company such as StubHub or SeatGeek would have to get a surety bond of $10,000 or more. Do they currently have to have a surety bond?
I can't answer that question.
Okay,
I
maybe
apologize, but I'm happy to find that
somebody
out
will
for
be here
you.
from there to
Sure.
ask. Okay. And then my concern is the same. I'm not someone who can buy bulk and do all that. I understand the concert. I almost think the concerts are a separate sort of problem from the sports.
Correct.
And so my concern is similar to what Delegate Adams said. I might buy a season ticket package, but I know I can't go to all of those games. And my concern is, if I want to go with my son, out of a 13-game package, I can only go to 6. Is this going to take away and make it more difficult? Because I know I maybe can't afford to go to all those games, but if I can sell those tickets, and I've done that in the past, I'm concerned that everyone's getting swept up into something that I don't really necessarily know, and maybe somebody can explain it to me, but I don't think people are mass buying baseball tickets or football tickets and then reselling them at some unbelievable amount of money. I don't know. Can you comment on that?
So again, I want to repeat what I previously said, and that is that we are not forbidding the resale of tickets, right? We're not forbidding the opportunity to get the money back that you may not have as a result of not being available to attend an event. Our specific goal is those people who are, in fact, purchasing those tickets with the intent, the sole intent, to resell them at astronomical numbers. And they are pushing people out. I hear it being said, and I know that to be true. And my daughter has been one of them that I've agreed with, who's paid prices that I just thought was ridiculous. But those are folks who are doing that for the sole purpose, not I'm buying season tickets, I can't go to the event, I want to resell my tickets. I'm talking about those who are specifically purchasing large numbers of tickets for the sole purpose of reselling them at astronomical prices as a personal benefit that does not help the state of Maryland, that is not fair. And some of the behaviors, I think, and actions are egregious.
So the decider of the intent of the person is going to be the Attorney General's office? They're going to ascertain the intent?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
If they're intending to do it, you're saying that they're the bad actors that are intending to do that. They're going to be the ones to decide what the intent was for anyone that does this?
I believe that is the hope of this bill, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Delegate Roberts?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hey, sweet mate. No, I was just checking to see I'm sorry, I haven't looked at the bill. So I just wanted to know if you had consulted with anybody, I guess outside of state government that might be advocating for this, like Beyonce or the promoters or the venues themselves, because I'm sure that all of this impacts them as well. I was I'm just curious,
So to answer your question, I've not had the privilege of consulting with Beyonce or any performers for that matter, but we have talked to, yes, some of those venues and some of the people who are responsible for tickets, particularly in the state of Maryland. Yes.
And what were some of their comments? I'm just Yeah, I just want to.
So we've had a myriad of recommended amendments to the bill. Yes, which we have considered, which we have even included. But again, this is, it's a difficult situation because I think it's very legitimate concern. And so we are still trying to kind of work it out so that people will be satisfied with how we set this up again. Going back to the question with regard to the intent and the impact that it has, not just on the customer, but on the state of Maryland and our revenues and how we are building our business.
And I was just curious, just like what Delegate Queen was saying, was this your bill last year?
No, ma'am.
Oh, okay, because I was wondering what happened to the bill from last year, but.
I'm not sure, was it last year? Or I know it came about 2 or 3 years ago. 2 years, 24, 2 years ago.
Okay, all right, well, thank you, Madam Chair.
I just had to clarify, you actually said Beyonce, but.
She did say Beyonce. She should have said Jamila Woods or somebody like that, but.
With that said, there are no further questions. Thank you.
And
District Mate.
nobody wants to pay double ticket or triple or 10 times the ticket price to come see me in concert. I don't understand why.
Oh, I'm sorry. It looks like we do have a question. Delegate Rogers.
Madam Chair, just a point of personal privilege, not so much a question, but I know that we have some students here for Advocacy Day from Towson Tigers who made it to our committee just to hear us testify up here. And if I could, I'd like to ask them to stand so that we could see them.
Well, I thought they were coming to see me. Wow.
Welcome. Your students, are you guys seniors, juniors, sophomores? Seniors. My daughter graduated from Towson. She's a Tiger.
Seniors and a junior.
And a junior. My daughter graduated from Towson last month, or 2 months. 2 months. Tiger, yeah.
Okay, can I please get up from this table?
You may, Delegate Woods. Thank you kindly. We have more favorables. We have Audrey Fix-Schaefer, Hugh McElroy, Nathaniel Morrow, Tom Cole.
Good afternoon. I'm Audrey Fix-Schaefer with Meriwether Post Pavilion. Last year, nearly 400,000 fans came through our gates. They traveled from all 50 states, Washington, D.C., and around the world. And they didn't just attend a concert. They supported Maryland's economy. Those visitors generated $70 million in economic benefit for our states, patronizing local restaurants, area hotels, and shops. We also employ 800 employees. That from Maryland. We are 100% in favor of a reasonable cap on ticket resales because right now, consumers are getting gouged. Sports teams and Broadway-type theaters may have another view because they're a different type of a business, but we're concerned with concert goers. Last year alone, StubHub, Vivid Seats, Ticket Network, and SeatGeek, on those sites, we tracked more than 25,000 tickets listed for more than double the face value. That amounted to $26 million of price gouging at our venue alone, leaving the state of Maryland. And it's happening again. This summer, Jack Johnson priced his tickets at an average of $73, yet on Vivid Seats, tickets are listed for as much as $3,125. You may hear resale platforms highlight the tickets they've sold under face value. That's great. But what they don't want to emphasize are the millions of tickets sold above face value, generating billions in profits. This is rampant, abusive scalping, a form of unregulated arbitrage that harms fans, artists, and venues alike. When fans are overcharged, they don't come back. They attend one show a season instead of several. They can't afford food, drinks, or merchandise, and that hurts artists, workers, and our long-term sustainability. You will likely hear from predatory resellers and the platforms that host them, and from organizations they fund, to discuss questionable reasons to urge you to oppose a cap. Regardless of their name, any group fighting reasonable resale cap is siding with scalpers, not with real consumers.
Thank you, Tom Cole, Madam Chair, members of the committee. There's been a lot of reference to what this committee has done before. I just wanted to note for you in 2024, that was House Bill 701. It passed out of this committee with a price cap and passed 101 to 32 out of the House. It died in the Senate. So I just want to let all of you know that this committee and this House has supported reasonable price caps in the past. Delegate Adams, we don't need the cap on sports. Representing Meriwether Post Pavilion and concert venues, that is what we're here for. We understand that the ability to sell those sports tickets on secondary ticketing platforms is baked into selling season tickets. But what you've heard from and what is bringing this issue forward is what's happening with concerts. It is not just 10%. We're seeing tickets that are bought for $50 being sold for upwards of $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. That should not happen to Maryland consumers. And I'll also note that the registry is a big part of the price tag that's come on that fiscal note. While we think a registry is a good way to manage ticket brokers, we understand the fiscal constraints the state is facing right now. If the registry cannot be managed, that can be removed from the bill. But I want to emphasize and underline, this House and this committee has seen fit to adopt those price caps and protect ticket consumers because, Delegate Pippy, to your point, this is about there being an industry built around buying these tickets away from consumers and then selling it back to them for multiples and multiples of the price. We don't want that industry here in Maryland. It serves no purpose. And if tickets do go down in value, the secondary ticketing platform will still be there to sell that ticket. It is simply, we're trying to take away the predatory incentive of buying these tickets and creating the scarcity and then selling them once they are scarce. So we would ask, with those amendments, a favorable report on House Bill 77. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll start with Delegate Amprey.
Thank you all so much for coming out and speaking about this. So I'm a big music fan, so I've had to buy my wife Beyonce tickets and had to sell body parts later, but we'll talk about that another day. But also, I just want to get a better understanding of just the economic model and how ticket scalping and this system affects your business at the Meriwether. If you could talk about that, and it's also, in talking about how ticket scalping is, what it does to the business model, just want to get a better understanding, because I'm looking at some of the testimony here, and I understand that, like, I think about when I bought my wife her last Beyonce tickets, right? Like, you could go online and see tickets for like, $12,000 that's listed, but like, who's actually paying? Does someone actually end up paying? Like, who's paying that crazy amount for an $80 ticket going to $12,000? Just want to get an idea of how do y'all know who's actually buying it for that price? And then also just give me context on what scalping does in your industry.
Well, sure. And since we all want to talk about Beyonce, why not? The thing that to me is, if I were in your seat, I would want to know about is all the people in the United States that flew to Europe to see Beyonce because it was cheaper for them to do that than to buy the scalp ticket here. So they got on a plane, they got hotels and meals, because in different parts of Europe, you can't sell for over the face value. And that's us letting all of our economic activity leave the country, leave the state, and that to me is absurd. That's something that Maryland could do. When you put a cap on concert tickets, artists are gonna wanna play here instead. And who is buying those overpriced tickets? That's something we have no access to that data because we don't do that. What unfortunately has happened, you know that there is what's called a Bots Act that made it illegal for people to use computer programs and other mechanisms to buy up more than the allotted maximum amount of tickets. It still goes on. There are, I don't know how many companies specialize in that type of equipment, but there are whole conferences about it. And that's what they call themselves brokers, use in order to be able to grab those tickets before you can.
Got it. Yeah, we hate to see people leaving the state, but yeah, I mean, look forward to talking offline. I think there's just, I think some of my colleagues have some excellent points on the free market, and then just trying to figure out how do we make it all work, because I mean, I think there is just a natural thing that once if an artist, wins a Grammy and now, it happens, like ticket prices go up, so.
To that, I'm sorry, to that point, I would say the artist is the one basically who decides what their ticket price is. They have baked in what they think that they should be earning, what it costs them to be on the road, their lighting, their buses, their band, and all of their insurance, all of that. They set the price, which is they should. And anybody who's talking about a free market, I'm a capitalist, I get it. But it's just like if you wanted 2 seats to, let's say, Bermuda Christmas week, and there's no seats left, you can't just pay $5,000 a seat because someone else is going to offer it to you. It is like that. It's a license. It's not property.
Got it. Okay, thank you so much.
Delegate Adams?
I mean, over the years, the committee's learned a lot about me. I'm a Van Halen fan, a Pearl Jam fan. I've been to many of your venues, events over the years.
Thank you. I thought you looked familiar.
Not that familiar. When I was younger, I used to go a lot. Steve Miller and Bad Company. MGM National Harbor is also on this letter, and I've been to MGM National Harbor as well, but they're on the other side of this. So I went to go watch Chicago, which has been a few years ago, play, so it's not all the original performers, but in any event, all I remember, and I don't remember which platform I ended up buying tickets from, yeah, it was expensive to sit 1 or 2 rows back from the stage, but we bought like the next section up, and they were, there were enough options. So I think it goes to the question of what Delegate Amprey was saying is that you can go in any event and see, okay, thousands of dollars for a ticket, or do what my wife and I did. I think we may have paid $120, $150 for the seat to watch that very nice performance at MGM. It was just the market bore out what I was willing to pay. I'm assuming you would have that same situation at Merriweather, right? I mean, you're going to have performers who are going to sell through the nose the opportunity to sit like in the pit or close to the stage, and then you got people like me that are going to pay what I'm willing to pay, and I can do that at your venue. Is that not the case?
Interestingly, for the most part, artists, they want to make a fair amount, but they don't want to charge through the nose. And they resent the fact that scalpers are getting the money that it makes it look like they're getting. And the reason why they don't want to charge through the nose is they want that fan to come back. They want that fan to be able to buy a T-shirt. They don't want the person to feel taken advantage of. And again, anyone who is not for a cap means that therefore someone else profiting off of that ticket other than the artist. And it's curious to me that, again, we want people to keep coming back. We want them to see 5 or 10 shows a year. If you've been charged a $50 ticket, you got charged $500. That's theoretically 9 shows you're not going to go to. So that's 9 other artists you're not going to discover, and 9 other times you can't buy a T-shirt or beer or pizza at our place.
I guess what I'm saying is, in Delegate Amprey, I'll just reinforce my question, because you can buy expensive tickets that are located in the premium locations, and you are charged what the market will bear. Not every consumer is going to buy the front row ticket, and I don't think your testimony is that, section something went above the front section, orchestra, whatever that looks like, perhaps in the middle, not on an aisle seat. I mean, the tickets vary in price is all I'm saying to you.
And Delegate, I would just say that will continue. That variability in pricing will continue. What this bill addresses is the best way the market you're describing, the best way for that market to work is the artist, the venue, and the ticket buyer consumer. Right now, we have a market that has one additional party, and that is the scalpers. And I don't think any of us
Well, hold on. Let me stop there. I don't know that I've used SeatGeek as a scalper in the sense that, they've got a marketplace, and the market's going to charge what the market bears. That's the market, right? So to say a scalper is the platforms, I'm just going to push back and say I don't agree with that general principle.
Well, you are buying it from a scalper.
Yes.
You're using the phrase scalper. You're saying a secondary market participant.
Well, they like to call it a secondary market because it's,
I like to call it a secondary market.
Well, that's okay. You can.
The scalper is somebody outside of your venue who's got a handful of tickets, and I think you're presenting the wrong image when you say scalp. Go ahead.
I'll use a different word then, if that will be better. Predatory resellers who are on their laptop, at 10 o'clock Friday morning, scooping up those tickets so you can't get it, being hosted by SeatGeek.
Okay. All right. And I never use company names, just SeatGeek is the one that I have the experience with. I think I actually use them a lot. That's probably how I buy most of my tickets. So I'll just leave you with this. I'll be at your venue in the future. I think I'll be able to do this, provided we keep a marketplace where I can go on my preferred platform and buy my tickets. So let's not hurt that market characteristic is what I would say. I'll leave it there.
Okay. I do not see any further questions for you. You need to push your light, Delegate Turner, if you have a question.
I beg your pardon. You need to push your light if you have a question. Okay, I just want to ask y'all a question. So I'm trying to have a clear understanding. You, for this bill or any other bills that you want to put an amendment on, you feel that it should be a cap on them selling the tickets. Okay, so okay, let's go back to our famous Beyonce again. Okay, when Beyonce comes to Washington, D.C. or Maryland, everybody knows, you know, they started off high and then they go down low on tickets. Are you saying that their company puts the price on everything and they put a cap on, or y'all want them to put a cap on? Where's the cap come in on?
So after the prices are set by the artist and the venue together.
Wait a minute,
Right, the artist generally sets the price with some insight from the venue, because the venue can tell what else is playing around and what the going rate is around that area. It's a local thing. So once they set the price, and to your point, if you're going to sit up close, the ticket price is going to be higher than if you sit all the way up in the back or in the lawn.
Right.
So once that is set and that's locked, we believe that if you buy that ticket and you can't make it, we want you to be able to sell it to somebody else, because we want someone in the house. We want fans there. But that is not the profit center of business for people to be profiting off of somebody else's art, someone else's work. We pay our employees, our rent, our insurance, our security. We make sure we have food and beverage out there. We have enormous costs. The predatory reseller has their laptop in their basement. And there are times, and it's not uncommon, that the resellers are making more than the artists are. That's not fair.
So you're saying it should be a cap on how much they can sell the ticket for?
Not the original seller. The original seller, meaning the artist and the, once the ticket's on sale, that's their decision, what they would decide to put it on. It's if you buy that ticket, we want the cap to be on the resale of that ticket. We want to take the financial incentive out of all of the predatory resellers in Maryland to use this as their business. This is their cash machine, and all that money leaves this state. So it's the resale of a ticket.
Okay, the resale of the ticket. Okay, I was just wondering where the cap come from, and this bill will put a cap on it. Is that what this bill is?
I believe how it would be, let's pretend the ticket was $100.
Okay.
And then with the fees, let's pretend it was another $20.
Okay.
So it would be 10% more than 120 is what you could sell it for, something along those lines.
And if I may, Delegate, there actually already is a prohibition on selling tickets for boxing events in Maryland above face value. So this is not without precedent. It's just about making sure that when tickets are bought and sold, that those $10,000 tickets, that our Maryland consumers aren't being taken advantage of in that way.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Delegate Pippy?
All right, for my final bite of the apple here. So let me ask you, is there anything in state law that restricts the artist or the venue or Mary Post Pavilion from setting how many tickets are sold?
how many tickets are sold?
Yeah. Is there anything in state law, federal law that says you're not permitted to set how many tickets you sell?
What the fire marshal would prevent us from going over capacity. I mean,
So outside the fire marshal, you could control, like, if somebody came in and was like, I want to buy 100 tickets. Like, is there anything in state law that prohibits the person at Meriwether from selling 100 tickets at once?
We will, I don't know about the state law, and I'm not an attorney, but we, and usually with the artist also, we'll put a max number of tickets that an individual could buy. And it's often at 4 or 6, something like that. But what we're finding and what everybody can read, there's a zillion stories and studies about how these predatory resellers are using these illegal bots to scoop them up. So it instantly, they've got those tickets, and if you, above the number that you're permitted, and if you the consumer, want to buy that ticket, you're going to have to go through them now because they already got them.
So someone is using some sort of algorithm or some sort of bot to buy more than the allotment that you set at your facility or the artist sets in the deal that they make with the venue, and circumventing the restrictions you put on it and buying a whole bunch of them. Is that fair to say?
And circumventing the federal law.
Okay.
There's the Bots Act that was passed in 2016, and it has been enforced one time, and it was in New York.
And what is that? Just in summary, it says that you can't use to make it seem like you're an
You're
individual?
not supposed to use automated, computerized type systems in order to grab more tickets than the limit.
Okay, all right, thank you.
See no further questions. Thank you very much. I'm going to call one more time Hugh McElroy and Nathaniel Morrow. They're not here. Moving on. We do have a virtual favorable, Tara Konsari. Okay, we'll move on to the other virtual. Well, that one's a favorable with amendment, so I'm just going to go to the in-persons. So we're going to move on to favorable with amendment. We have Marceline White, Bruce Bariano, and Kevin Erickson.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair. For the record, Marceline White, Executive Director of Economic Action Maryland Fund. We are here favorable with amendment, and I'm also representing or speaking on behalf of the National Consumers League, who put in writing, and the Sports Fan Coalition. We've been talking to Delegate Woods and working on amendments, but in the current posture, we do not support the bill. We believe there is a lot of work that needs to be done to address our concerns. In particular, I agree with a lot of the conversation before about the free and fair marketplace. And we see that the secondary marketplace actually is an important place. And we also are concerned about the idea in about a current regime, one for sports fans and one for music fans, which we think is unworkable and would cause a lot of consumer confusion. Maryland's done a great job in working on ticketing for the past few years, and a couple years passed a very strong law, which many of you supported, and this would be 2 steps backwards. So with that said, we look forward to working with the sponsor on the amendments and strengthening the bill. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Kevin Erickson. I'm here to represent the musician side of this conversation. Future Music Coalition, the organization I direct, advocates for policies that protect musicians and fans. And so we've been working to break up Ticketmaster while also fighting for tough rules of the road to address the worst problems. The tough rules that you passed in 2024 were a good step. We've seen lots of momentum. The one piece that didn't advance was the resale price cap, and we appreciate Delegate Woods' leadership on that piece. All of the musician groups working on this issue support that. We all want tickets to be set no higher than the price the artist chooses. We don't oppose all resale, though. We want a healthy, competitive resale market within that limited range of action. And from the many nations where a resale cap has been enacted, we know that resellers can still operate because they operate in those countries right now. We have no opinion about sports. It's fine to carve it out. The resale industry will cynically paint this as a bill that helps Ticketmaster. In fact, it targets Ticketmaster's exploitative resale practices. They will make claims about price caps resulting in fraud. It hasn't been the case. You will hear them cite reseller-funded studies with shoddy research. We will respond in detail to those arguments in written testimonies, so look forward to that. I would ask you to exercise extreme caution in amendments because things that look reasonable on their face may end up like really undermining the intent of the bill. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about how things are going with the 2024 bill, about how resale caps are working in the rest of the world, in the many countries, Belgium, Denmark, Poland, Norway, Portugal, Japan, Australia, Brazil, Spain, that have already adopted them. I'm happy to answer questions about the amendments that we'd like to see, but I do want to be mindful of time. So looking forward to questions. Thanks.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Bruce Mariano here on behalf of the Mayor and City Council of Ocean City, favorable with amendments, or at least with amendments on the bill. I do have a lot of views about the underlying previous conversation, but I will stick to what is of great concern to Ocean City. If you could please take a look at page 3 of the bill, please do. Line 27, it indicates who a ticket issuer is. It's a very important definition. If you look at page 3, line 27, a ticket issuer is, and then you go to page 4, line 1, the operator of the venue. That is the Ocean City Convention Center. So we would be legally liable if anyone sues us, and we'd be financially responsible if anyone's unhappy with having issued the ticket and then someone else resells the ticket. Under this bill, the operator of the venue, which is the Ocean City Convention Center, would be legally liable. And then if you go to page 10 of the bill, lines 15 to 22, the Attorney General's office would raise havoc with the Ocean City Convention Center. Whatever you do relative to this issue, and I'm not here to testify on that, I'm here to testify on behalf of Ocean City, please, the original issuer of the ticket legitimately and validly should not be subsequently responsible legally or financially or criminally for the operation of the recipient of the ticket and what they do with the ticket. Lastly, I would say, please, on page 10 of the bill, we have an amendment, and I will submit amendments, Madam Chair, to the committee. It allows only 10 days to remit information on the resale of tickets. Ours is quite a production, and we would like to do an amendment to change the 10 to 45 days. Thank you very much. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. There are no questions for your panel. Thank you kindly for your testimony. We do have a virtual favorable with amendment. Kendall Gilver.
Chair Valderrama, Vice Chairs and members of the committee, my name is Kendall Gilvar on behalf of the National Independent Venue Association, representing independent venues, festivals, promoters, and nonprofit performing arts organizations nationwide, including many here in Maryland. We appreciate the sponsor's leadership and strongly support inclusion of a resale price cap, specifically for live entertainment. This is not about interfering with the free market. The current resale system is not a free market. It's a manipulated market driven by speculative actors who use bots, bulk purchasing, and artificial scarcity to extract profit from Maryland fans. Maryland's independent live sector drives more than $744 million in state GDP on an annual basis. When tickets are resold at extreme markups, as stated, that money doesn't actually support Maryland artists, venues, or workers. It's extracted by these third-party resale platforms whose business model depends on unlimited price inflation. When these platforms price gouge Marylanders, they make more money. That is why they are opposing the price cap today. Please be mindful of their motivations. Resale price caps work because they remove the incentive for this manipulation. When resale margins are limited, the incentive to use bots and other predatory practices completely goes out of the equation. Maine has actually already enacted a resale price cap, and states across the country, including Delaware, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Washington, Wisconsin, West Virginia, Kansas, and Vermont are all advancing similar bipartisan policies on a large basis this session. Internationally, as mentioned, many countries have adopted these protections, and the momentum across the country is clear, and we ask that you move today with that momentum. We do urge two critical amendments. First, to ensure that the resale price cap applies uniformly, so both individual scalpers and large resale platforms are held to the same enforceable standard. And second, to maintain a clear ban on speculative ticketing in Maryland, which currently stands. Happy to take questions. Thank you.
Seeing no questions, thank you very much, Ms. Gilbert, for your testimony this afternoon. We will now move on to the opposition. Bill Frick, Brianna January, Frank Boston, Bill Kress, Joe Garba. And Brian Barry, there's only 5 seats, but there's one more Brian Barry, so Brian, you just come up when someone...
January with Chamber of Progress, a center-left tech industry trade association, in respectful opposition to the bill. We have several concerns with the bill language, but I'd first like to briefly walk through the current resale landscape, specifically for concerts, since that Ticketmaster enjoy a unique position as the original ticket seller and the resale marketplace for live events. Ticketmaster's position in the market is reinforced by its partnership with Live Nation, an event promoter that works with venues to set the terms of entry and ticket sales. As a result, Ticketmaster is able to restrict how consumers use the tickets they purchase. In some cases, they prohibit resale of tickets, and in others, they require that tickets only be sold through Ticketmaster's own online resale platform. By some estimates, this unique position has given them control of over 80% of the national market on live events. In fact, their market power has recently garnered significant attention from the FTC and even prompted a lawsuit from the DOJ. Committee, it is important that any legislation help rebalance the market by increasing consumer choice and promoting competition. Unfortunately, HB 77 does not do this. It reinforces the monopoly that I've just described. First, the bill establishes arbitrary and ineffective price caps on resale. A 2018 report by the Government Accountability Office highlights the difficulty in enforcing these caps, and a similar report from the state of New York found that such caps don't actually influence prices. The bill also bans speculative ticketing, a practice that increases consumer choice. Lastly, we caution that the bill is inconsistent with the FTC's new all-in pricing rule, which just took effect in May. Committee, by limiting competitive pricing and speculative ticketing, the bill kneecaps the very few third-party platforms that exist to increase consumer choice. For these reasons, we encourage your rejection at this time. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Delegate Klippinger. Madam Chair, Bill Frick here on behalf of SeatGeek, who is a leading ticketing platform that serves as both the primary ticketing market as the ticketing partner of the Ravens and Commanders. Delegate Adams, thank you for the name check. And as operator of one of the nation's leading resale platforms, SeatGeek is in respectful but very strong opposition to House Bill 77. My message to you is very simple. You already heard these issues in 2024. You already passed an excellent law ensuring transparency by ticket sellers at every step of the process. It was a well-reasoned law. SeatGeek believes it has benefited Maryland consumers, and we have offered it as a model to other states around the country. Price caps and other restrictions on consumers' ability to transfer tickets are not the answer. Such restrictions not only undermine consumer choice and frustrate expectations, they drive buyers away from trusted platforms like SeatGeek into unregulated markets where they're much more susceptible to fraudsters. Please, let Maryland's thoughtful and well-supported law that you just passed in 2024 stand and remain Maryland's policy. Please move unfavorable on House Bill 77.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, I am Frank Boston III, and I am here today in opposition of this bill. We have submitted written testimony. My client is the Maryland Entertainment Industry Association, as well as other theaters, concerts, and sports venues who collectively oppose this bill. For the record, I also represent the Lyric Theater, which is also in opposition to this bill. Yes, we absolutely agree that enforcement is needed against all of the bad actors who engage in spec ticketing, deceptive ULRs, and bots. We were the champions of all-in pricing 2 years ago. Maryland was a leader in the nation with one of the most robust laws in this space. But now we're here back with a bill that doesn't work for my client and others that are similarly situated. This bill, I'll start with the definitions, are excellent, but the registration is an overreach and violates privacy. It asks for your social security number on page 4, line 29. That's a non-starter. It asks for a report that it has a report that is asking for proprietary information like inventory disclosure. For example, page 5, line 24, total number of tickets sold during a reporting period. Again, proprietary information. Page 5, lines 26, original purchase price of each ticket. That is an overreach, cumbersome, and again, proprietary information. Surety bond. Good companies already have insurance. And I would offer that this is a violation of the Interstate Commerce Clause and could be an issue there because then one national bond is good. Maintaining a records, yeah, of course, we already maintaining records, but that's proprietary again. The last thing I want to say is the fiscal note is negative. It starts off at $258,000 a year, and then in year 5, it goes all the way up to $347,000. We have a $1.4 billion deficit. We don't need any more. We look forward to working with the AG's office to come up with common sense solutions to fixing the enforcement issue.
Thank you. Madam Chair, ranking members, distinguished members, my name is Joseph Garba. I'm the Senior Manager of Government Relations at StubHub, the world's leading global ticket marketplace. StubHub has long served Maryland fans and consumers by providing a safe, secure, and transparent platform to buy and sell tickets with our Fan Protect guarantee, ensuring customers a 24/7 customer service team and refund guarantees. An analysis of over 334,000 tickets sold in Maryland between 2017 and 2024 revealed that fans saved over $16.4 million by purchasing tickets on the secondary marketplace rather than the primary box office. In 2024 alone, there were approximately 492,000 tickets sold on StubHub in Maryland, of which roughly 96,000 were out-of-state purchasers who traveled to Maryland to attend an event. StubHub data also indicates that nearly 90% of live events on our platform have tickets sold under $100. While we share the committee's goal of protecting Maryland consumers, we must respectfully oppose HB 77 as drafted. Specifically, the provisions imposing price caps and service fee limitations will have unintended consequences of driving ticket sales off secure, regulated platforms into the shadows of the black market where fraud is rampant. Economic data shows that price caps do not lower ticket prices, nor do they control or affect demand. They simply drive fans and transactions to unverified channels like social media, street corners, and offshore websites where there are no money-back guarantees or customer service representatives to help. We have witnessed this in numerous countries like Ontario, who introduced a 50% resale price cap in 2017, only to suspend implementation in 2019 because it was unenforceable and pushed sales to the black market. Our final concern with HB 77 at this time is that it imposes burdensome registration and data reporting requirements on resellers and exchanges, including significant privacy risks for consumers who are simply trying to sell a ticket they can no longer use. With regards to the necessity of this legislation, we respectfully remind the committee that the General Assembly recently enacted robust consumer protections regarding ticket sales in 2024, which we supported. For those reasons, StubHub respectfully urges an unfavorable report on HB 77.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the committee, my name is Bill Kress, here today on behalf of StubHub. Let me see if I can bring some clarity to this issue. I listened to the sponsor and all the issues that she raised. I mean, the good news is you passed a bill in 2024. It banned speculative tickets. It required upfront pricing, and it required full refunds. Previous to that, we passed a law that outlawed bots. So you have all that protection in place. So what's left in the bill? Fee caps and a registration scheme. So in 2024, the General Assembly declined to pass a fee cap. And the reason they did that was very simple. Because when you cap fees on tickets, people go off-site, they sell their tickets on social media platforms like Facebook Marketplace, and when they get scammed, they have no refund opportunity. Because if you buy a ticket on StubHub, if you buy a ticket on SeatGeek, you get 100% guarantee that you'll get a refund if you have a problem. So they rejected that. The issue of this registration scheme is fascinating. So we would have to collect all this data after the secondary seller registers with the Attorney General's office and post a $1,000 or $10,000 security bond. We would collect all the data on the original ticket price, the resale price, the amount of tickets sold, the identification of the reseller, and we would be responsible for reporting any violations of the law. So you're probably wondering what other industries have those requirements. The handgun industry, the cannabis industry, and the pharmacies who sell opioids. If you pass House Bill 77, you can add Taylor Swift tickets to the list. So I would say that the registration scheme is unworkable and unprecedented given the issues at hand. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Delegate Queens and then Delegate Adams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, so I'm glad we have all these folks who've been here for years. I've seen you at this table for a few times, and so just help me go through what we have and don't have, because I remember we had some bills started back with Chairman Davis. That Frank, is I know you shaking your head because I remember you. It was a company you were representing. So anyway, what have we done or not done? And let me know. Did we pass it in the House or not the Senate? But my recollection was that we did deal with bots and speculative sales. Is that true or not true in both the House and the Senate?
That is absolutely true. And, speaking of the Treasury bill, former Chairman Davis's bill, he had a situation that occurred in MGM. He contacted me and said, "You better fix this, Frank, or else
right.
I'm going to fix it in the legislature."
That's what I remember.
And it was Christmas time, so the legislature was right around the corner. As it turns out, it wasn't even our company, but we helped them out anyway. And that was that led to the first attempt of spec ticketing and deceptive URLs. And that was the first attempt to say it's banned in the state. That spec ticketing law has evolved, and what you saw 2 years ago was a more robust, well-defined spec ticketing law, which is one of the strongest in the nation. Since Maryland passed this law, 9 other states have incorporated their law, and the Federal Trade Commission also passed a rule in 2025 that dealt with a lot of these issues. So it is well documented on the books, and some of the language in this bill is just simply repetitive.
Okay. All right. So then we came under Chairman Wilson, and it was all the issue about the extra prices for the concert tickets, and I thought we did something with that, and we separated season ticket holders. What did we do with that bill? Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, what passed there in the House versus the Senate? Because I'm trying to keep track of what has been done or not done.
I'd be happy to answer. So the bill in 2024 required upfront pricing, include all the fees. It banned speculative tickets. It required a full refund. The House bill had a price cap on it. When it went to the Senate, that was removed, and the House passed that bill.
Okay, so something did pass.
Absolutely.
But the Senate took out the cap part.
Correct.
Okay, so caps we did. Sports venues. We tried to do, and the House and Senate did not. Okay, so.
You may recall, Delegate, I remember the look on your face when you were told that the price caps would apply to your season tickets. So
yeah, I know.
The committee did take out.
He's not the only one who has season tickets.
Yeah, I recall. Your seat was down here, Delegate. You were right by us at the time. So the committee excluded from the price caps provision.
Right.
I believe they excluded venues that have a majority of sporting events, but as Marceline White testified, that really doesn't make a whole lot of sense for your rights as a consumer to depend on.
What venue it is.
And our all-in pricing law was so robust that it included taxes, which we're the only state in the nation that have taxes upfront in all-in pricing at the right point, at the right time. That should be addressed.
Okay, all that prices is addressed. Okay, so I guess I'm kind of where I was at the beginning, was the only thing I thought was new was the registration piece of this current bill. Am I kind of right about that?
The General Assembly did not pass price caps, right? You considered them, ultimately, what passed was all in pricing. You did not embrace price caps.
All in prices versus price
that
caps.
is,
Okay.
we
All
believe.
right, I think I'm clear now. Thank
We
you.
think you've covered it.
All right, thank you.
Before I move on to Delegate Adams, my original plan, if someone could kindly let Mr. Berry testify, because he's also an unfavorable in case that he may be to answer questions as well.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Berry.
Sure.
You have 2 minutes.
Well, thank you for your time, Madam Chair. My name is Brian Berry. I'm Executive Director of the Ticket Policy Forum. The Ticket Policy Forum is a coalition of the leading online marketplaces nationwide and who serve Maryland fans and tourists who come to Maryland every year. We've got StubHub, SeatGeek, Vivid Seats, Events Ticket Center, Game Time, and TickPick as our members. The reason we oppose the bill in its current form is, again, as you've heard already, Maryland passed a strong law. It was signed into law by the governor just 2 years ago, banning deceptive speculative listings, strengthening refund protections, and requiring all-in pricing. Since then, of course, the federal government, through the FTC, has enacted its all-in pricing rule as well. We support these reforms. The remaining price cap is one we do not support, and for a couple of reasons, one of which you haven't heard about yet today. That is compliance. In addition to compliance, there are consequence issues. But on compliance, I mean this. It is virtually and technically impossible for our marketplace members to know for sure what the seller paid for that ticket without the primary ticketer providing that information through verification. And since Ticketmaster is the largest ticketer in this state, aside from where the Commanders and the Ravens sell their tickets through our member SeatGeek, that means Ticketmaster would have to verify the validity of these tickets to us as well as the price. This doesn't happen, and nor is it in the bill. So it's technically impossible to comply. Second is the consequence in terms of driving these sales into the underground. It is not fiction. It is not theory. That is exactly what will happen because demand cannot be legislated away. What will happen is sellers of tickets and buyers of tickets will simply move to less safe alternatives. We have seen it. We are seeing it elsewhere, which is why the momentum in other states speaks for itself, where when they look at these policies, they think they sound good. So far, they've actually turned away from them this year. In more states than not, where these policies are being debated today, they are ultimately walking away from them and instead opting for other strong consumer protections, which mirror what Maryland passed just 2 years ago.
That's right.
Thank you, Mr. Berry. And then we'll continue with the questions. Delegate Adams and Mr. Frick, if you want to answer, just come in anytime.
Join the party.
Thank you, Chair. And so I asked the sponsor my very specific question, and I see, Frank, that you're the representing the interest of many teams like the Orioles and the Ravens, amongst others. But as a Commanders fan, as a season ticket holder, we had a situation this year where the Commanders played the Cowboys on Christmas Day. So little old Chris Adams is not going to go to a football game on Christmas Day. So the question that I have for you is, if this bill was in place last year and I went to go sell my very desirable Commanders versus Cowboy tickets, would I be capped as to how much I could have sold that ticket for?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, so the truth of the matter is the Cowboy game is more valuable than the other games. The Ravens, I suspect that the Steelers and on, Orioles, Yankees, that sort of thing. So I'm going to say a thing, and you can say, isn't that so? But as a season ticket holder, I'd highly recommend that the legislature leave my season tickets alone. Wouldn't you agree?
Say it again.
I said as a...
I'm hard of hearing. Everybody knows that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Say it again. What was the question?
He said he'd like if you could leave his tickets alone.
Oh, absolutely agree. I agree. Leave your tickets alone.
Ticket holder, I think I can speak collectively for for my friends that buy season tickets. Maryland should leave our season tickets alone.
From one season ticket holder to another, I agree.
Okay.
See no further questions. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your testimony.
Thank you.
We
Thank
have
you.
one more witness for informational purposes. We have Steve Sakamoto Wengel.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee, Steve Sakamoto Wengel, here on behalf of the Consumer Protection Division of the Attorney General's Office, and also for reference sake, I've been working on this issue since former member Frick was a member of this committee. I'm quite familiar with it. But we have significant concerns about the registration part of the bill. We've discussed them with Delegate Woods. We appreciate her time and understand that she is open to amendments that would address some of those concerns, but we haven't seen any of the amendments yet that we've discussed. But for one thing, we already operate several registration programs in the Consumer Protection Division, and they do take up quite a lot of time and resources in order to operate them. Note that this particular registration program does not provide for a registration fee. The other programs we operate have a registration fee that would cover the costs of actually doing the work involved in registering and enforcing the registration requirement. However, even if we did have a registration fee, the way this registration program is set up is totally unworkable because it would require us to register not just the StubHubs and the SeatGeeks of the world, but any individual that sells more than 50 tickets in a year would have to register. And I don't think that many of them would be registering voluntarily, which would require us to scrub all the resale sites to figure out if we can identify individuals who are selling more than 50 tickets in a year. And that is, once again, something that we think would be totally unworkable. So we would urge, that the registration program, be modified to make it, more workable. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Seeing no questions, thank you very much for your testimony. That concludes the bill hearing on House Bill 77. Members, we're now going to switch and flip-flop here to House Bill 711. Vice Chair Charkoudian.
Madam Chair, can I call my panel?
Yes, please.
My panel is, whoops, wrong one, hang on. I got the wrong bill in front of me. Come on up here. Just anywhere, yep, you're good. Madam Chair, colleagues, for the record, Delegate Lorig Charkoudian asking for a favorable report on House Bill 711. And I want to also thank you for your flexibility and apologize if in the middle of this I also have to, I'm last in 2 committees and somehow ended up with 4 bill hearings today. So appreciate your flexibility. House Bill 711 is a data privacy bill. We have worked for a number of years, those of you who've been on this committee together, we've worked for a number of years on this really important question of what can companies who have access to our data based on the various online systems that we use, what are they allowed to do with that? And so this body has made, I think I'm really proud of the work that our committee has done to improve the data privacy for people in Maryland. Part of what we've learned, the other thing that I think we've done really well as a state is that in general, the state agencies have been committed to keeping data private and not sharing it with the federal government for immigration enforcement. Part of what we've learned with this new administration are a number of different tools that are being used to get access to private data, to track people, data that's being sold in ways that people who participate in the various apps or computer or electronic programming are not, with this new administration, are not aware of. Sorry, let me get myself back on track. I think it was someone's YouTube online that jumped in. So as we learn more about what this current administration is doing, that's both what companies are doing to sell data to this administration, as well as how this administration is getting access to state-level data that we had thought was private based on MVA policies and our policies with NLETs and DPSCS data. We're coming in with a bill to really close the loopholes. I mean, that's really, I think, the way to think about this bill. So it doesn't change any of the principles that we have held to in this state, which is that we don't think that Maryland private data should be sold or shared or accessed by the administration for immigration enforcement, or frankly for other enforcement like violating people's First Amendment rights or tracking what people are doing in terms of their engagement in other constitutionally protected behavior. And so this bill really tightens all of those things up, more so than, so it's consistent with the principles that we have had. I've been lucky to work with people who are experts in data privacy issues, and you're going to hear from them, and I'm happy to take questions after you hear from them. So I'm going to hand it to you next. And if you want to. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Chair Valderrama, members of the committee. My name is Lady Garcia, Director of Health and Human Services at CASA, here in support of Bill 711. Thank you, Vice Chair Kordarian, for your leadership on this bill. Today, we're witnessing a troubling trend, the weaponization of personal data against the very families who relied on state systems to live and work. As our Health and Human Services Director at CASA, I oversee case management for health and public benefits. Our organization serves our community through tax preparation, workforce development, ESO, legal and immigration services. Every month, we have over 1,800 cases in Maryland. Every day, we hear the same question from our community. Will my information be shared? Will the information become a risk for my family? Many of you remember longtime CASA member Jose Hernandez. He has testified before the legislature before Jose was arrested by ICE agents in early morning at his home in front of his young children, still in their PJs. When he asked ICE where they got this information, ICE told him directly they got it from the MBA database. Jose had no criminal records and had contributed to Maryland for decades, specifically in Montgomery County. When the General Assembly passed the Maryland Highway Safety Act over a decade ago, families were assured they could safely apply for licenses. CASA encouraged compliance. Many came forward and trusted the government. This trust has been completely shattered. The same data Jose submitted in good faith to comply with the state law was later used to locate him. This has been the case for countless community members we have seen in the past years. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Chair Valderrama, members of the committee. Thank you so much to Vice Chair Charkoudian for your leadership on this. I'm Laura Moy. I'm a proud Marylander, and I am also a professor of law at Georgetown and a scholar of privacy and surveillance law. And over the past 15 years, I've represented and counseled a number of nonprofits on these issues, and I've appeared before federal and state legislatures, courts, and agencies. I'm here today on behalf of CASA. I also worked in law enforcement before I became a lawyer, so I'm intimately familiar with how private companies power surveillance. And this has always been a concern, and what we know about ICE surveillance now merely brings that into stark relief. So I'll make 3 brief points. First, ICE has access to incredibly powerful surveillance tools including car and phone location tracking and vast databases of information that combine public and private information. Fear of this surveillance drives people away from work, from local businesses, from paying taxes, from important services. And second, this surveillance is provided by a lucrative and politically active industry worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Powerful industry associations fight to continue profiting off of Marylanders' private data, as we expect them to continue to do. Third, Maryland's privacy laws are quite strong in many ways, and we believe that this bill is consistent with that background. But we do need to shore them up, and that's what HB 711 is designed to do. It's designed to clarify that phone and vehicle locations are always sensitive and cannot be sold. It's also designed to clarify that when Maryland shares data with brokers for a specific thing, like notifications about car recalls, they have to comply with restrictions placed on that data. And it's also designed to buttress the Maryland Driver Privacy Act, which was passed a few years ago, by increasing awareness of this and ensuring records custodians have procedures in place to comply. Thank you for permitting me to testify in support of this important bill.
Chair Valderrama, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify today in support of HB 711 and to Vice Chair Charkoudian for introducing the bill. I am a senior policy counsel at the American Civil Liberties Union, where I lead our federal policy work on privacy and technology and assist many of our state affiliates in ensuring that data and technology do not intrude on our civil rights and civil liberties. I would like to take this opportunity to stress that this bill is closing crucial loopholes in existing law, primarily in the Federal Driver Privacy Protection Act. Although on its surface, the Federal Driver Privacy Protection Act, the DPPA, protects our information, it is defined more by its exceptions than its protections. It includes 14 exceptions, and they are capacious, allowing for a wide variety of uses, including disclosure of our driver information to governmental agencies, law enforcement, private investigators, private businesses, insurance companies, and more. Data brokers have exploited these loopholes for their own financial gain, creating an industry worth multi-millions of dollars. And in turn, they endanger our communities without furthering the public interest.
Can you say your name for the record?
My name is Cody Vensky, for the record. Moreover, although the Driver Privacy Protection Act purports to limit further disclosures and re-disclosures of drivers' personal information, that protection lacks teeth in practice. Instead, immigration rights advocates have traced the many pathways from motor vehicles data to ICE and other immigration enforcement agencies, and 40 members of Congress recently urged states to close these loopholes and ensure that drivers' information is not weaponized against Marylanders. HB 711 will help ensure that Marylanders' data is not being released for illicit purposes. It supplements existing federal law by placing guardrails on the redisclosure of that data, in this case ensuring that it's used for our well-being and the public benefit and not private financial gain. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I believe Delegate Pippi has a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Panel, thank you for being here. So I have a question. I just want to understand. So page 6, lines 10 through 13, it talks about, I guess, what a controller or processor can and can't do. And if you go look at just lines 10 through 13, it looks like it says that they would still have to comply with the civil, criminal, regulatory inquiry, investigation, subpoena, or summons by a federal, state, and local official, except if it only pertains to a subpoena summons for immigration enforcement. So I'm just trying to make sure I understand the intent of the bill. Does this say that even if there is a summons, you know, a legitimate immigration enforcement action, that they're still not allowed to comply?
Yeah, the intention is that a judicial warrant, that they would comply with a judicial warrant. And I think we can clarify that language. But I think the issue is that we know there's judicial warrants that we think are legitimate enforcement from ICE, from immigration. And we know there's been a bunch of other documents, these so to speak, administrative warrants or summonses or other documents that are not official compliance with immigration enforcement. And so I agree with you that that's not clear, and we can clarify that they would comply with a judicial warrant.
Okay, well, that was easy. Then I guess just the last part is, I guess, for the legal scholar with what was your name again? I apologize.
Sure, Laura Moy.
Laura. So do you see any concern, if someone who's, been to law school, been through the pain of that?
We try to make it as.
She teaches, she's part of the pain now.
Even better, right? Even better. So do you think this bill would potentially run afoul of having individuals impeding a federal action, like impeding the purpose of a federal action? So, for example, I think even the Attorney General in Maryland has kind of responded and said that, look, if your sole purpose is to stop them from doing something that they're congressionally allowed to do, that is likely unconstitutional, whether you like it or not, right? This isn't a conversation about whether people like the immigration enforcement. This is more of a legal question. It seems to me that this bill could, enable people to impede or stop a legal federal enforcement. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that is a valid and important concern, and that's why I think, as Vice Chair Charkoudian just mentioned, the intent here is to ensure that a judicial warrant signed by a state or a federal court would enable the disclosure of information, which tracks in parallel exactly what was already passed a few years ago in the Maryland Driver Privacy Act. So yes, it's important for records to be disclosed in accordance with federal law. It is also possible for Maryland to set a higher standard above and beyond what the federal minimum standard is in certain issue areas, such as the Driver Privacy Protection Act. And again, judicial warrant signed by courts of either federal or state jurisdiction, I think, would permit, the intent of the bill is to permit the sharing of information in those circumstances. And we're certainly interested in working to make sure that that's clear.
And Delegate, I can add to that as well. We've looked into this very issue, and we are not aware of any cases under federal obstruction statutes finding that a lack of sharing of information, especially under a generally applicable policy, constitutes obstruction of federal activities. And then similarly, under the 10th Amendment, states cannot be commandeered into enforcing federal programs or policies, and that includes immigration enforcement.
Yeah. I mean, I'm familiar with the commandeering, but I would say, and look, and you already said that you would probably have to amend this to clean this part up, because lines 10 through 13 literally make it seem that even if there was a total legal, legitimate immigration enforcement, this would prohibit someone in Maryland from actually, participating. And so but you said you're going to clean it up, so I won't harp on that.
Yes, yeah, we'll clean it up, and I will just repeat what Vice Chair Charkoudian said, that there is a difference between regulatory inquiry and investigation that are kind of like mentioned in this on line 10, and a judicial warrant.
Well,
there's a tremendous amount of leeway, and we also know, as she mentioned, that there is a record of inappropriate legal instruments being used to try to gain access inappropriately to Marylanders' records, such as custom summons.
Yeah, and I will say that it also at the end says, or other governmental authority. I mean, that is like a catch-all for literally everything, So you're going to clean it up. I'll take a look at that, but thank you for answering the questions.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Delegate Rogers?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know some of the opposition letters raise First Amendment concerns. How would you respond to that?
Do you want to jump in here,
Peter? Yeah. I'd be happy to, and thank you for the question, Delegate. I'll answer on two fronts. One is the disclosure of governmental records, and the other is requirements imposed on private parties. Although the ACLU is all about open and transparent government, as a matter of First Amendment law, the government is usually entitled to set conditions on the release of records, and that is a common staple in public records requests and has been upheld by the Supreme Court against facial First Amendment challenges, including, for example, having to specify the purpose in obtaining a governmental record. On the private side of the equation, the analysis is a bit different. Of course, We want to ensure that individuals and private entities are free to use publicly available information in order to ensure transparency about the operation of the government. But in this case, much of the information we're discussing is about private citizens that is not a matter of public interest. And we've seen regulations long upheld in that particular space. For example, the Fair Credit Reporting Act ensures that there are accuracy and notice requirements placed on credit reports. And that has been a longstanding law that's been upheld many times over the past 50 years.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Delegate Turner?
Yes. I'm really trying to understand everything that you two, which is Laura, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can you kind of walk me through, what you know about ICE?
Yes.
Okay, and access or detail of location information. Can you just walk me through? I just want to get a clear understand. I mean, y'all seem like y'all got a lot of information, but I want you to give it to our committee here.
Thank you so much for the question, Delegate. Yes. And I think it's worth emphasizing that this is a rapidly changing landscape where new information is being released every week, and that's why it's very important. Even though I know that this committee has done really important work on the commercial privacy law that we're looking to try to strengthen, to buttress, it's really important to understand that the landscape is changing. So a couple things to highlight. One is information has come out about a tool that is available, a commercial tool available to ICE, whereby it can search for the license plate of a person's car and receive a list of times and places where that car has been spotted by a national network of cameras. Not only that, but also with predictions of where that license plate is likely to be spotted in the future. This is a very kind of location tracking that keeps people in fear, staying in their homes, not taking their kids to the playground on the weekend or going to their local restaurant. We know similarly that there is a tool similar to that for the tracking of phones, where agents can track a person's phone over time and even follow it from home to work or school. They reportedly can use that tool to search for phones in a particular neighborhood and then view the locations where those phones go during the day, when they do go to work or to school. And then a third, just to mention, is a tool that some agents are using in the field whereby they take a photo of a person's face that they've encountered on the street and attempt in real time to identify that person by using a facial recognition tool. And we know that that's error prone. It has been demonstrated to have made errors in the field as used by ICE agents in recent instances. But it nevertheless obviously draws on a tremendous amount of data to try to attempt to make those matches. So those are just a few examples, but there is a lot out there, and as I said, it's coming out every day.
Okay. Same thing.
I think Professor Moy summed up very well the extensive amount of information that immigration enforcement at the federal level has on individuals. It's worth emphasizing that despite the purported protections of existing federal law, much information from agencies such as the NBA makes its way to ICE through data brokers as well as nonprofit associations. And this is something that Senator Wyden and 40 other representatives called attention to just recently, calling for states to end that data sharing because of its particular threat.
Okay. Thank you.
We're going to go with Delegate Howard, then Queen, then Weibel, and then Bhandari.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, as defined in law, who is a custodian?
I would need to pull up the definition from the Maryland Public Information Act, but that is a reference to the definition of custodian from the Maryland Public Information Act.
Yeah, all right, I can look it up too. And it says, let's see, on the bottom of page 7, it says a custodian, so we're not really sure who that is right this second. A custodian shall take the responsible or I'm sorry, geez, I can't read today, I'm sorry. A custodian shall take reasonable steps to determine whether a person seeking access to a public record is doing so for the purpose of enforcing immigration law. So I guess my question is, who is a custodian, and how are they determining the reasonable steps? Like what gives them the authority? Where are they deriving that from? Because you evidently we're talking about multiple custodians. So what is going to be the standard for these reasonable steps?
Yeah.
Taken by people who are, trained in those steps, what the law is, what the standard is, what happens to them. Should they take unreasonable steps?
Sure.
Instead of reasonable steps, those type of things. So.
Yeah, thank you, Delegate, for that question. So I think I have a couple responses, and then I'll give it to others as well. But on the question of just who is a custodian and what are we talking about here? So again, this section, and it can be a little bit confusing looking at the bill. I know that we're trying to hopefully amend multiple things, including both the commercial privacy law and also the Maryland Public Information Act. And this part, 4-320.1 and 4-320 above it, are both part of the Maryland Public Information Act. These are some of the provisions that govern the proper release, safeguard, denial of requests.
Sure, but
of
like
all
you said,
public.
this is all new territory.
Yes,
And
right.
this is all new language in the bill.
And so 4-320.1, which is current law right now, this is the Maryland Driver Privacy Act. That already is law on the books that requires custodians of records to deny access to those seeking access for the purpose of immigration enforcement, to federal agencies seeking access for the purpose of immigration enforcement. And so the purpose here is to clarify that as they are applying that existing law, that there should be a proactive effort just to ensure that's being followed. And this is also meant to dovetail with a provision that was passed in the last session last year, requiring agencies to work with the Department of Information Technology to establish regulations and procedures to protect the privacy of public records. So this is all just this is all just to clarify that is an affirmative obligation to follow what is already in here. But I think the other question that you're getting at is just like, how do we make sure that this is clear, right? How do we make sure that people who are applying this understand what is reasonable and what is not? That is an important question, and of course, I very much want to work with the vice chair and with you and others if you think that right now there should be greater clarity that the parties here involved include, for example, the Department of Information Technology that is currently working on some related procedures.
So we've also seen in the news some accidents and people being killed and these type of things. And I guess walk me through, if applicable, this bill in conjunction with state agencies trying to communicate with each other based on driver training, driver records, these type of things. How does this bill speak to that? So you have, let's say, the Department of Labor trying to access driver training.
So I think that this may be a question for those who work closely with that workflow, but in general, I believe that those requests for records typically are accompanied by an explanation of purpose of why the records are sought. And so, so I believe, and again, definitely want to make sure that we get this right, but I believe that is part of the workflow. What is the purpose that the records are being sought?
I guess my concern would be that you would have an outside agency or an even in-state agency trying to access that information. Talking specifically about this bill and trying to access that information for public digest and then not being able to access that information for public digest, not specifically speaking to the actions in this bill that this bill prohibits. And then we can't get the information as requested by the public, quite frankly. And they certainly, these are their agencies, and they absolutely have a right to know if requested.
And Delegate, to add to that, the bill's prohibition is very specific. It's for immigration enforcement purposes. Emergency response would not fall under that particular rubric. And as a mechanical matter, what we've seen in other states is usually a request for a declaration of purpose, why the records are being sought. And we already know that the NBA already asked that at the upfront, because under that federal law I mentioned, you can only acquire for certain purposes. The federal law permits for 14, which is very, very broad. But if you go through the workflow to acquire MVA records, they will ask you, what is the purpose? Please check the box. And so this would build into and likely follow that workflow, although I agree with Professor Moy that there's probably room to make that clear and make sure the right agencies are referenced to make that reality.
Yeah, so let's say an agency couldn't ask the status of an individual issued a driver's license. They couldn't ask based on this.
They could absolutely ask.
They could absolutely ask based on this legislation. So DLLR, well, I used to call it used to be called Department of Labor, absolutely could request from whatever said agency in Maryland, that type of MVA, right? We're talking about driver's license. And driver's license numbers to me are, just like taxpayer identification numbers, all those sensitive, not a social security number by any means. So Department of Labor could absolutely go to MVA, request status, driver information, simply for the purpose of establishing immigration status, training, whatever it is, whatever they're looking for, and this bill wouldn't prohibit that whatsoever.
Immigration status may not be the case, and they would likely be querying, for example, the E-Verify program hosted by the Federal Department of Homeland Security for that. But as far as, do they have their CDL and things like that, that's permitted by the federal law, and this law would do nothing to change that, because, querying, do they have their CDL, commercial driver's license, that is not immigration enforcement.
Or when did they become legalized? Maybe they question, when did they become legalized? Was it in the last 5 years? What is it in the last 10 years, right? Would this bill prohibit that, just based on that question?
What you were describing is not for immigration enforcement questions, I think, are immigration enforcement purposes. And so it does not apply to a particular type of data, it applies to particular purposes. So in the hypothetical you framed, they would be able to access that information. I do want to, again, underscore, most of those sort of queries you're describing do go through the E-Verify program.
And then it would go back to my original question was, and then you get into sort of the minutia of, would a custodian understand that that's a reasonable expectation to release that data?
I think that a custodian would understand that to release that data other than for that purpose. So yeah, for any of the universe of purposes, it is not touched by this language.
Excuse me, we usually only allow one witness to respond to
I'm sorry.
questions. Thank you. We have quite a few in the queue, so please be mindful and be succinct. Thank you. Next, we have Delegate Queen. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So my question is more for, thank you for the bill, and I understand your intent. I'm more concerned about possibly unintended consequences. So I'm not an attorney, so I don't know how some of these definitions will play out. But on page 1, where you start to define what is precise geolocation data, and you added now a mobile device and a vehicle. And I'm thinking about cases where I may have a parent who I'm trying to track that may be dementia, and we're trying to figure out where they are, or a child who wears a specific bracelet because we want to know where they are. Is this somehow going to interfere with that? I'm not quite sure I understand why a mobile device and vehicle were added, because you added those things. So can you help me with that, and maybe what language, because I know these bills are patterned after other states that have tried to do this. Where did you get this language?
Absolutely. Do you want me to take that?
This clarifies the existing intent of the law, which applies to the location of a consumer. Of course, unless Elon Musk has programmed a chip inside of you, your own body is not broadcasting location. It is your device, it is your vehicle that is broadcasting your location. And this seeks to simply clarify the intent of the commercial data privacy law, which is that if your device is broadcasting your location, it's going to be subject to the protections of the MODPA.
Our prior data protection bill did not have that in it. So you're now changing our prior law, which has effects on more things than just immigration, right? And to me, if this was the concern, that would be a change we would have done regardless of this particular issue of immigration. You've now added something that has a broader impact. And I'm just concerned about that if the only intent is about immigration. Is that making sense?
Yes, that makes sense, Delegate.
Yeah, so we didn't, for some reason, when we passed this bill, we didn't think that was a problem. And now you're telling me I should think this is a problem for other people outside of immigration. That's what I'm trying to raise.
And it is a clarification because consumer, I think in all other states where similar language to the Maryland law is passed, has been assumed to include an individual's device. Vehicle has been added to clarify and avoid any future debates about whether or not device includes a vehicle. You may have seen reports from entities such as Consumer Reports that detail the amount of information that our vehicles are broadcasting on us daily. But what's really important to underscore is one of the key provisions in the commercial privacy law is data minimization, which says that companies can use your information to provide you the services that you have requested. And so to go back to the hypothetical that you outlined about, say, a location application between a parent and a child, the parent is in that case explicitly requesting that service, and that use of that data would be permissible in that case. Thank you, Delegate.
Delegate Weigel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I apologize, I had a bill hearing in another committee, so I missed the actual presentation of the bill. But my question is, why just place restrictions on immigration enforcement? Why not? Why don't we put it on all law enforcement, private investigators, or anybody who uses sensitive data to locate a person? Why would just restrict it to one agency?
So that's a great question, and as a privacy and surveillance scholar, I would love to, and also I think that there is a particular, very clear emergency need to protect the data that is being shared and sold to ICE right now in this moment in light of what we know is happening and of the awful factual context that I think you've heard about here today and in recent months.
And the emergency need is that up to 20 million illegal immigrants are left into the country. Is that the emergency need?
I think that the emergency is that Maryland is a state, a very diverse state, including many, many immigrants, and there are a number of people who are afraid right now to send their kids to school, to go to work, to go to the doctor when they are ill, to go to the hospital when they are gravely ill, and to, frankly, to patronize their local businesses as well. It is not just a humanitarian tragedy, it is an economic one as well, and this measure is very much needed to respond to that.
So if this passes this year, you would expect to extend this to all law enforcement next year, possibly? You said you'd like to see that.
I would like to see law enforcement not be able to make an end run around Fourth Amendment protections that are in our Constitution to protect our privacy merely by purchasing access to data that they would not be able to obtain by a warrant. And in general, yes, I think that that is solid policy, that data should not be purchased that can't be obtained through a warrant. We shouldn't have backdoors around the Fourth Amendment. And again, this is particularly important right now in this very context, which is why this bill is narrow.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Delegate Bandari.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Professor Moy, thank you for everything you do. Could you clarify how our state law currently defines publicly available information? and explain why that definition may allow data brokers to aggregate and resell sensitive personal data without meaningful consumer consent?
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you, Delegate, for the question. Yes. So Maryland's current definition of publicly available information has three categories. And the first is information that a person lawfully obtains from a record of a governmental entity. Now, it would make sense for information to be considered publicly available if and only if it is offered by units of government under public records law to anyone who requests it. But our concern here is that because of the way that this is worded, it could be read by those that have a financial interest in selling records to permit any records obtained from a governmental entity, including under a contract, to then be later repurposed and resold in ways that might extend beyond the bounds of what that initial contract was for, in a way that feeds into, again, these massive public-private databases. And so the objective here is to clarify that to the extent that this applies, it only applies in circumstances when the unit of government has contracted with a party or shared records and placed restrictions on how those records will be used. For example, we're sharing driver information only for the purpose of permitting driver insurance inquiries, that if a party were then to violate those terms in the future, they would no longer enjoy the benefit of being exempt from Maryland's strong commercial privacy law.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Delegate Ampry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So my question is for Ms. Garcia. Thank you so much for the work that you do. You mentioned that you have close to 2,000 services cases a month, which sounds like a lot. Can you share more about what are community members sacrificing or because they don't know where their data is going? And more so, I want to just humanize and understand. We're talking a lot about the solution. I kind of want to understand the problem a little bit more in depth. You can kind of expand on that, please.
Yes, thank you, Delegate. So one of the biggest questions that we normally receive, especially after this new administration started, it's about how the data is going to be shared and what kind of data is going to be shared with what kind of agencies as well. So we're talking about healthcare. We're talking about even workforce development, trainings, even registering their kids into schools has been common question on who and when and how their data is going to be used. So this question comes a lot from a community that is struggling already to just survive this administration, right? I'm talking more about the human impact than not having protections in our data, and independently of the immigration status is more about how our data in general is going to be shared, when and to who, and the protections that we have. So for the immigrant community, as I mentioned in my testimony, Jose Hernandez in 2020 got arrested in the middle of the night in front of his children because he applied for the driver license. So we're talking about police safety as well, making sure that those systems that are supposed to protect our private data, as I mentioned, independently of immigration status, is more about where our personal private information is going to go to and how they can access and even sell it, as we're hearing here. For the human perspective impact, we're talking about families withdrawing public benefits, not being, even having an option to enroll their kids in Medicaid when their children are U.S. citizens and qualify for the benefit. So we're talking about those protections that not only impact the immigrant community, but just everyone in general, how that is going to be shared, who and when. I think it's important in making sure that we provide those protections regardless of or independently of the immigration status. It's about protecting our information.
Thank you so much.
Seeing no further questions, thank you very much for this panel. We'll now move on to more favorables. Eden Durbin, Charlotte Hoffman, Dr. Henry Lee, Elizabeth Hilliard, and Denise Gilmore. Sorry. You can begin.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Denise Gilmore here, Legislative and Political Director for AFSCME Council 3. AFSCME Council 3 is the proud exclusive bargaining representative for nearly 55,000 public service workers across Maryland, including our state and local government agencies, public schools, and higher education institutions. We are here testifying in support of House Bill 771. Among our union's core values is a commitment to advancing social justice in all that we do and standing up for our most vulnerable members of our communities. Sometimes that means big protests and marches. Sometimes that means ensuring clarity in our laws and regulations to ensure that state employees have a clear-cut understanding of their role in our information sharing processes and state agencies so that we are protecting the rights and safety of Maryland's residents at such a vulnerable time. That is exactly what House Bill 771 seeks to do. Marylanders expect that when they provide sensitive personal information to state agency, that this information will be safeguarded. They expect clear expectations and regulations, strong oversight, transparent procedures to ensure their privacy is protected. That trust is a foundation to an effective and accountable government. Over the weekend, I spoke with several of our members about this bill. They were deeply concerned by the gaps it addresses. Our state workforce reflects the diversity of Maryland. Our members are immigrants themselves or come from immigrant families. They do not want to find themselves unintentionally complicit in federal immigration enforcement because of a loophole that allows sensitive data collected for legitimate state purposes to be accessed through third-party data brokers and used in ways they never anticipated. No state employee should have to worry that routine administrative work could indirectly contribute to harm in their own communities. HB 771 establishes reasonable common sense privacy protections at a time when mass surveillance and data sharing pose growing risk to all Marylanders, not just immigrant communities. For these reasons, I respectfully urge you to issue a favorable report on House Bill 771.
Ms. Gilmore, I'll let you change on for the record. You're here to testify on 711, correct?
Yep, that's the right bill. Thank you.
Right. You kept saying 771. I just want your members to know that you are
I'm working on it.
711.
Am I in the right committee? Is this economic matter? Go ahead. Thank you.
Hello, thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, for bringing this bill, members of the committee. Charlotte Persephone Hoffman, my pronouns are they, she. I'm here on behalf of Trans Maryland. And speaking of this being economic matters, I just realized that this is my 8th year testifying in Annapolis and my first time in this particular committee. So it's a pleasure to be here with all of you. First off, Trans Maryland absolutely is in agreement with everything that you've heard already about this bill. There are vast issues affecting immigrant communities right now, especially with the treatment that we're seeing coming from ICE and more broadly from the second Trump administration. So we co-sign everything that has been said already. In addition, I did also want to raise some other issues around data protection that are not necessarily unique to the queer community, but are more likely to come out with some of us. So first off, right now we're seeing a huge focused attack from the Trump administration on access to transition-related care, especially for minors. And we're seeing states such as Texas and some comments from the federal government that suggest maybe they want to get in on it too, going after parents of trans kids for social services investigations, possibly revoking child custody, things along those lines. One of the protected classes in this bill is gender identity and transgender status. And so we really would think that this will be very helpful to members of our community who don't necessarily want their identities being handed over to other states, to the federal government, et cetera, for frivolous investigations of families that are just trying to do what is best for their kids in a state where this is considered legally protected health care. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. I'm Elizabeth Hilliard, Director of Government Relations for the Maryland Office of the Public Defender. I want to particularly highlight the importance of encouraging individuals to follow the law. It sounds strange coming from a public defender, but we actually want less clients, and we'd like less people who end up going through the criminal legal system. This bill will help do that. Encouraging and protecting individuals who go through the proper processes to get their license through the MVA is a critical step to ensuring that we are not having individuals on Maryland's roadways who are driving without a license or otherwise non-compliant. That's really the portion that we're here to talk about. We do agree with everything else that has been said before the committee, and you heard from our esteemed colleagues about the intricacies of data privacy and the importance of closing the loophole that exists. So for those reasons, we urge a favorable report on House Bill 711, and we appreciate Vice Chair Charkoudian for bringing the bill.
Thank you. Seeing no questions for this panel, thank you very much for your testimony. I'm just going to call one more time. Was there an Eden Durbin and a Dr. Henry Lee? Okay. Moving on to, we have one more favorable, Franca Muller.
Hello. Dear Honorable Chair Valderrama and members of the Economic Matters Committee. My name is Franca Muller-Paz. I'm a resident of District 46, a teacher at Baltimore City College, and a representative of the Baltimore Teachers Union with over 9,000 members. I'm speaking in support of HB 711, the Data Privacy Act. Marylanders understand that we are protected from warrantless arrests in our homes. The deep knowledge of our constitutional rights is a testament to the strength of our state. As the number of immigration detections in cars grows and grows, it seems that in response to the difficulty of targeting homes, ICE is now focused on exploiting vulnerabilities in our state privacy laws to target vehicles instead. And many of these drivers are just going to work or taking care of their families. Just before Thanksgiving, a student contacted me pleading for help. She gave me permission to share her message that she sent me, and she wrote, "My father was on his way to pick me up and attend a open house at Micah. I checked his location and saw that he was on a bridge for a long time, not moving. And then I got a call from my mom, and she said, 'Wake up your sister. I think ICE detained your dad.' We rushed out of the house and got to the location it said he was at. When we got there, we saw his work truck, and the window from the passenger seat was completely broken. He wasn't there. Only his truck. We searched for his phone and found it in the middle of the road, checked his camera roll, and saw that he recorded a video. In it, we can clearly see the ICE agent smashing his window. My dad tried his best, but he was scared and dropped the phone. But you can hear the ICE agent mocking my dad and laughing at him. My dad asked, 'Could you give me something? I'm bleeding. You did this to me.' And the agent laughed at him and said, 'No, you did this to yourself.' He grabbed my dad's phone and threw it in the middle of the road. The sheer number of stories of non-citizen community members being stopped in their cars tells me that license plate data is being used to target and terrorize them. Maryland must not be complicit in ICE's desire to use our data to perpetuate violence. Thank you.
Franca, thank you for your testimony. I'm sorry for your experience, your family's experience. There are no questions for you. Thank you for your testimony this afternoon.
Thank you.
We do have a virtual, Mr. Eric Lopez. Okay, are you Lopez? Eric Lopez?
Good afternoon. I'm testifying for Amicus Center, Edith Hinson. Eric Lopez isn't available today.
Oh, okay, go ahead. You have 2
Wonderful.
minutes.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Honorable Chair Valderrama, Vice Chair Charkoudian, and members of the committee. My name is Edith Henson, and I'm a program director at the Amicus Center for Immigrant Rights. Amicus Center is a nonprofit that focuses on serving detained, excuse me?
Go ahead. You're muted. Ma'am, your time is, you're muted and you still have time.
Thank you, Your Honor. I don't, excuse me, Chairperson. I apologize for the technical difficulty there. Amicus Center is a nonprofit organization that provides pro bono legal defense services to community members detained by ICE in Maryland and the DMV. At its core, HB 711 is about upholding Maryland's commitment to privacy, fairness, and the protection of all of its residents. Amicus Center's Maryland clients are afraid to call 911 and go to the hospital. They're afraid to seek assistance from the police when they're in danger. I personally received a call over the Christmas break from a mother in tears having a diabetic episode, but terrified to go to the hospital for fear that ICE would be called and that her child would be taken away from her. More commonly, I speak with clients who no longer drive simply because they're afraid a traffic stop may lead to their detention and ultimate deportation. HB 711 is a critical tool that would close driver data loopholes to prevent third parties from sharing driver information with ICE. It would update the MPIA to ensure that records requests cannot be weaponized for immigration enforcement, and it would strengthen MODPA by limiting what counts as publicly available information, explicitly protecting geolocation data from phones and vehicles, ending the law enforcement exemption that ICE exploits, and prohibiting the use of non-sensitive data to infer sensitive information. Mass surveillance and unchecked data sharing threaten the privacy and safety of all Marylanders, not just immigrants. When state agencies become pipelines for federal immigration enforcement, community trust erodes and public safety suffers. As such, Amicus Center would request a favorable report on HB 711. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Seeing no questions for you, thank you very much. We now move on to the unfavorables. We have Michael Sanderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the committee, I'm Michael Sanderson with the Maryland Association of Counties. Our opposition to the bill is really on a functional part of the bill rather than the larger political context and so forth. And this actually is something that was raised by some committee questions earlier. Our concern on implementation are really on behalf of the custodians. A big section in the middle of this bill is about the Maryland Public Information Act. You don't get a whole lot of bills come to this committee in that area. It's your colleagues down the hall. But as a practical matter, here's how things work under the PIA. The custodians are all sorts of folks across government, in the state government, all the different agencies, in county governments. Decent-sized county probably has a custodian who works at the health department, somebody for the police department, someone for the planning office. There might be 5, 6, 15 different people who are actual custodians of documents. The way the PIA works is public records are, generally speaking, supposed to be open documents. You can ask to see one, you can ask to get a copy, and for the most part, we're told, hand them over. However, then the PIA has section after section of exceptions to that. Don't give out this, don't give out personal records, don't give out health information about your employees. There's a long list of things that you've created in state law. Don't give out these various things, they're mandatory denials. In all of these sections, our custodians are personally liable for mistakes they might make in interpreting that law. So we're before the General Assembly all the time saying, whatever you do, be as clear as possible so we don't end up with folks operating in good faith in a mess personally. The parts of this bill that speak to try and divine the intent of what somebody's asking for this information, what the use is, what the purpose is, ends up putting our custodians in a really tough spot. The idea of making a guess as, is this for immigration purposes, this batch of data or whatnot? That's our principal concern in the bill. There's other elements about things being specifically mentioned in a federal warrant, but that particular component of the bill gives our local custodians pause, and I hope it would you as well.
Seeing no questions, thank you, Mr. Sanderson, for your testimony. We move on to a virtual. Andrew Kingman.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Can folks hear me okay?
Yes.
Great, wonderful. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Andrew Kingman. I represent the State Privacy and Security Coalition. We're a multi-sector coalition of about 35 companies and 7 trade associations. I also have a background as a privacy compliance attorney. Very much appreciate the opportunity to testify today. We appreciate the opportunity to be a constructive partner in addressing these concerns. We're opposing the bill as drafted, but we do hope that we can work with the sponsor to find a solution that provides a bit more clarity while still fulfilling the intent of the bill. We very much appreciated speaking with the sponsor and her team earlier this week. Critically, and just want to make it clear, Maryland's privacy law already bans the sale of immigration data and precise geolocation data by controllers, whether that's to another private party, to a state agency or federal agency, et cetera. And sale is also very broadly defined to cover virtually any kind of transfer of data. And so our concerns here, again, are with the provisions relating to the service of federal process. And we would just ask here, we appreciate the sponsor's willingness to clarify this section. We're happy to take a look at that language. Our request would be to add a knowledge standard. Many businesses don't often know what the purpose of a summons is or a subpoena. And so we would ask that there just be a knowledge standard for the business. On the inferences language in the definition of sensitive data, we would recommend using Colorado language that's a bit more precisely drafted, and that was drafted by the Attorney General's office. And lastly, we, for reasons I can speak more to, believe that it's not necessary to have the mobile device or automobile in the definition of sensitive data. Thank you very much. Happy to take any questions.
Good afternoon, Chair Valderrama and members of the committee. My name is Margaret Durkin, and I'm the Mid-Atlantic Executive Director at TechNet, a tech trade association. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak today on House Bill 711. TechNet and its members understand the sponsor's concern regarding the misuse of personal data in ways that may expose individuals, including immigrant communities, to harm. And we share that concern and agree that certain categories of personal data merit heightened protections, and we agree with that spirit and approach that bill in the same way. As Andy mentioned, we did meet with the House sponsor as well as the Senate sponsor. My written remarks are submitted, and I echo all of the points that Andy raised, and happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you both for your testimony. Seeing no questions for either of you, thank you for presenting your testimony this afternoon. Seeing no other witnesses, that concludes the bill hearing on House Bill 711. We will now move on to our last bill of the day, House Bill 506, Delegate Chi.
Okay, great. All right. All right, good afternoon, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, Delegate Lilichi here. I appreciate the patience of my witnesses. The last bill on the queue today, in the queue today. So I'm here to present my bill HB 506, which is about economic development. It's called the Transformational Project Financing. So HB 506 establishes the Transformational Project Financing Program at the state level within the Maryland Economic Development Corporation, commonly known as MEDCO. So for those of you who are new to MEDCO or this committee's new portfolio on economic development, the simplest way to describe the difference between MEDCO and the, let's say, Department of Commerce is that MEDCO, the Maryland Economic Development Corporation, does place-based economic development versus Department of Commerce does industry-based economic development. That's probably the simplest way to differentiate them. Think of MEDCO as like the development arm of the state of Maryland, okay? So this legislation creates a structured, accountable partnership between the state and local governments to finance truly transformational projects that generate substantial economic impact, like jobs, long-term tax revenues, et cetera. Across the state, as we all know, local counties and municipalities are struggling to revitalize aging commercial corridors, redevelop underutilized properties, and build transit-oriented development communities and attract businesses. In many cases, these projects require significant upfront public infrastructure improvements or investments before private capital is willing to engage. To make these projects possible, local governments often have to resort to something called a tax increment financing, or TIF, which is a public financing tool that uses the increment, which is the future increase of taxes due to the new development, to finance these projects and make them possible. There are many success stories using TIF in the state of Maryland, including the National Harbor, which I believe is in the chair's district, right? Or Arundel Mills, which is in Delegate Mike Rogers' district in Anne Arundel County, or Harbor Point and Port Covington in Baltimore City, which I hope is in Delegate Marlon Embry's district, at least the city, right? And downtown Columbia in Howard County. In each case, a local jurisdiction would establish a tax increment financing district and use its local property tax increase to finance the projects. But for projects of regional and statewide impact, local resources alone oftentimes are not enough. So the state needs to step up. HB 506 solves that problem. The bill allows a local jurisdiction that has already established a TIF district, bless you, and committed its own local property tax revenues to apply for designation as a state-supported development district. If approved, the project may receive a portion of the net new state revenues generated within that district, such as income and sales tax revenues attributable to new economic activities that wouldn't have happened without that development in order to help support the project's financing. This is modeled after many other states that are far less restrictive in allowing the projects to use tax increment financing to finance transformational projects. Maryland is actually among the most restrictive. And I want to point out, this is not a blank check because the bill requires rigorous reviews, both at the local and the state level, including independent economic analysis to ensure that projected state revenues are truly net new with a positive fiscal impact. The state participates only in growth that would not otherwise occur, and only after local government has demonstrated its own financial commitment. It is a performance-based model that shares risks and rewards success. I have to point out that many other states are much more aggressive in deploying similar tools to attract transformational projects. This legislation ensures that we are not on the sideline, that we have a modern financing mechanism to support major redevelopment efforts and grow our tax base while improving our community's quality of place in a fiscally responsible way. At its core, HB 506 is about partnership. It recognizes that when local governments are willing to step forward and make their commitment, the state should strategically partner on projects that produce statewide benefits. So this is simply an enabling legislation. In other words, local jurisdictions can still advance their own TIF projects without applying to the state as a state-supported project, as they can now. But this one offers them a viable option to get extra support, which is why MACO is strongly in favor. For the first time, Montgomery County, my home county, is also warm to the idea of using TIF as you will hear in a minute from our county executive, Mark Elrich. In fact, I just read today the breaking news at the local county level that the county council just approved the Viva White Oak project. And the best part, the Viva White Oak project in East County, which is anchored by the Food and Drug Administration, a prime opportunity to build a vibrant mixed-use innovation district that's anchored by this biomedical R&D hub. And the best part about this project is it's located in our Vice Chair Charkoudian's district. So with that, I urge you a favorable report. Thank you. Okay, you want to go first?
Sure. Thank you. My name is Bill Striever. I'm CEO of Cross Street Partners. For a half century, we've been successfully completing neighborhood scale urban mixed-use projects in Maryland and many other states. The current, as Delegate Chi describes, the current TIF local property tax increment authority only works for mega projects like Arundel Mills and Baltimore's Harbor Points. A great example of where it doesn't work is East Baltimore's Choice neighborhood, the 244 acres with 3 public housing projects, desperate poverty just south of Hopkins Hospital. 7 years ago, Baltimore City Council approved unanimously a $105 million TIF to pay for health center, rec center improvements, charter school improvements, public space, and infrastructure support affordable housing. Unfortunately, the property tax increment from 1,000 units with 40-year pilots doesn't allow the sale of $1 TIF bond. By contrast, HB 506 would capture income tax, an amazing story that in the Choice neighborhood went from less than 10% of the able-bodied adults at the 630 Perkins Homes families in employment making less than $10,000. Thanks to the people plan of the Choice neighborhood, over 60% of those families are now making an average of $40,000. Found income that can be reinvested through payroll tax back into their neighborhood. Many other examples across Maryland and in Baltimore City, which is desperate for investment, currently would benefit from the HB 506 TIF. With the precipitous decline in federal funding and the state-type budget, we see TIF as the best way, without raising taxes, to propel growth in our communities across Maryland. We're way behind. We work in a bunch of states, as the delegate said, much more powerful tools for economic community development. Other states are eating Maryland's lunch in growth of jobs, business, and investment. We want to stop that. Last point, this bill provides a protection to the general fund. All the budget people brought this up right away when we talked to other states. Displacement adjustment caps the amount of state increment that can be available to support TIF debtors, ensuring that there is added revenues to the general fund, that it's a growth of the general fund without raising taxes. So we think it's a great winner. We'd love to eat other states' lunch with growth in Maryland, and we hope that you support this bill.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Matt Hugel, and I'm representing the Catalytic Infrastructure Development Group, a consulting firm focused on unlocking complex projects through innovative infrastructure finance. Over the past several years, I conducted detailed financial modeling on major mixed-use and transit-oriented developments across Maryland, and the conclusion was clear. Maryland's TIF statute is among the most restrictive in the country. We rely almost entirely on local property tax increment and do not leverage the broader state revenues that transformational projects create. In real Maryland case studies, we found that bond capacity was often too limited to make projects financeable. However, when we modeled those same projects with a TIF statute similar to those in states like Michigan and Kentucky, bonding capacity tripled and projects moved from infeasible to viable. HB 506 modernizes our framework in a disciplined way. It allows the state to participate in net new income and sales tax revenues attributable to a project after conservative displacement adjustments and independent fiscal review. Importantly, this is not a bill for one project or one jurisdiction. It establishes a program that can be used across Maryland, wherever a community has identified a transformational priority and committed local participation. This bill ensures that future growth helps fund its own infrastructure rather than burdening current taxpayers. but it also provides a mechanism for the state to invest in and capture value from development, not merely subsidize it. Maryland is increasingly competing with states that already use these tools, including several of our neighbors. Without modernization, I fear our most ambitious projects will continue to stall. I respectfully ask for a favorable report. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee. Tom Cole on behalf of Cross Street Partners. We've talked a lot about TIFs, but we haven't really talked about the mechanism of a TIF. Mechanism of a TIF says this is one area that receives X tax revenue. With this investment and these improvements, it will receive Y tax revenue, and we can use the difference between X and Y to fund the bonds that are going to help this development happen. You're going to have many people come before this committee. You have already had people come before this committee to say, if the state spends X amount of dollars, we're going to have this amount of economic development. This bill is different. It is not asking the state to spend the money first. Rather, it is saying allow local governments to use this mechanism that is proven in other states across the country to facilitate economic development. This bill is based off of best practices across the country and what they've done and what they've proven can work. And for those of you that are minding the state revenues, as you should, this is something that is going to increase those state revenues without the state having to put its money up first. We understand the informational testimony from Medco, and to that we would say this does not have to go through Medco. This can go through local economic development authorities. It can go through any of the local counties that Delegate Shi has already identified in her testimony. It can go through Maryland DHCD. Medco has sought to put itself in a preferential position about TIFs. My client has worked exhaustively to try to meet Medco where they are on this, but it does not need to run through Medco. The only thing we do need is this mechanism. We do need the ability to use this tool that has been proven effective across the country, and in Maryland, our TIF legislation is below par. We are not meeting the moment. It is not a very useful tool. We can make it more useful with these changes. So with that, we would ask for a favorable report. Thank you.
Thank you. I do not see any questions for you, Delegate Shi, or your panel. Thank you very much. We have another favorable, Michael Sanderson.
Me too, Madam Chair.
Oh, very nice, Michael, very nice. We do have one more favorable virtually, County Executive Mark Elrich. County Exec, you're on. Just unmute yourself. You're muted, County Executive.
Turn off the other thing.
We do have one more. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Am
You may
I on?
begin.
You're muted.
Yes, you're on.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, I'm Mark Elrich, and I'm the Montgomery County Executive. You have a letter from me that outlines my support for the important piece of legislation. And based on the earlier testimony, you know what tax increment financing is. In fact, many of the counties you represent have used TIFs extensively to support infrastructure investments where projects would generate new revenue that could be used to pay the debt service on the bonds issued to advance the project. Montgomery County has only recently decided to use this financing tool. I was very cautious getting into this because there are ample stories about TIFs that have worked, but also ample stories about TIFs that didn't work. And I wanted to be sure that when we did this, that we did in a way that was going to guarantee success for us and for the project. I anticipate that our council is going to approve my proposal to utilize tax increment financing to build the basic backbone for the infrastructure for a project that's long been in the works in our East County, Viva White Oak. It has literally sat there for over 10 years with no movement because of the challenge of turning sand and gravel pits into a viable modern development. I think of the projects that we do have in the county, more of them could be moved forward, and we've been approached by multiple developers about projects that look to be potentially promising. We're not promising anybody else anything until we put it through the same kind of rigorous hoops that we put this project through. But I'm convinced they work. I've talked to other people who can give us success stories. One One of the things that influenced us was the success story of the District of Columbia on a major TIF coming into the city, where the inclusion of the state taxes, and particularly the sales tax, paid back that TIF in record time, far less than it would have otherwise been. And that means for the state and for the county, the combined impact of us doing a TIF is all of us start harvesting the money that comes out of this project sooner rather than later, and the state has a much higher certainty that the project we do is actually going to get built. I think of the job creation and the new revenue generation that could be realized through a partnership using TIFs for huge projects like North Bethesda Metro project that will completely alter the trajectory of that area as a hub for commercial, residential, life sciences, and retail opportunities as a major metro stop. Also, there's Whitefoot, which offers potential for this TIF, and they've already approached us about exploring it. So in closing, I think this tool, if enabled for the state, could be a game changer, could help sum up or turn the ship that we have around for what appears to be, by anyone's numbers, a very slow growth and no growth Maryland economy. This is why I'd urge your support. I don't do this lightly, but I think it's clear that this is a real game changer, and others have talked about Maryland being left in the dust by other places. This is a way for us to getting out of the dust.
Thank you, County Executive Elrich, for your testimony this afternoon. Seeing no questions, thank you very much. That is the last witness for House Bill 506. That concludes that bill hearing. That concludes our bill hearings for this afternoon. Thank you very much. We are adjourned. Land use.
I love tips.